Yo, Atlas speaking and welcome to part 12 of What If I Was Reincarnated in the World of Pokemon and Became the Greatest Pokemon Tactician. Let the tale begin. Chapter 296, Ditto and Crobat, who suddenly attacked the 36 Ekin/Arbok Pokemon group and hijacked their respective targets after knocking them unconscious with a move, were pursued by the strongest Pokemon of the Ekin/Arbok Pokemon group. The rest of Alex's Pokemon receive this group of Ekin/Arbok with one move each and secure a quick end to this fight. Alex only caught the two A-rank Pokemon and began to investigate the cave to look for clues why so many strong Ekin/Arbok suddenly appear in this area. But, when he and his Pokemon entered this relatively small cave, there was nothing except for Pokemon bones and a few carcasses of other Pokemon species. Alex, who searched the whole cave, couldn't find anything unusual, and when he wanted to leave the cave together with his Pokemon, he saw Crobat and Gardevoir change their faces. What is wrong? Crobat answered first. A large group of flying Pokemon is starting to take the conscious Pokemon in front of the cave as prey. Their number is very large. Gardevoir added, there is also a lot of strong energy involved, so that I estimate that there are at least 5 elite Pokemon in this group. It's difficult to say exactly because they move through each other so quickly. Alex said with a serious expression, are the strongest elite Pokemon stronger in terms of level than our group? Gardevoir just shook her head when she said, no, I didn't notice any energy that is bigger than the strongest Pokemon in our group. Alex, who heard, nodded and started to leave the cave with his Pokemon. After Alex and his Pokemon left the cave, they saw a very chaotic scene where many Flying-type Pokemon fought for the prey, and where already some Flying-type Pokemon started to eat their prey on the ground, which aroused the anger of the fighting group. Alex, who saw this scene, felt the Flying-type Pokemon in the wilderness only behave arrogantly or aggressively. He didn't know why these Flying-type Pokemon behaved like that in the wild, but he had a suspicion. The ability to escape against almost every other Pokemon species in a fight as long as the Flying-type Pokemon is not defeated with a hit, rewarded such aggressive behavior more than of many other Pokemon species. Most other aggressive Pokemon in the wild must be very strong or have a method that ensures that other Pokemon don't want to fight them, like the poison of Arbok, to be able to maintain such aggressive behavior. Alex also knew that there are passive Flying-type Pokemon in the wild, but so far he has almost only met very aggressive flying Pokemon. Even when he thought about his most dangerous moments as a trainer, he realized that there was almost always a ridiculously aggressive flying-type Pokemon involved. The more Alex thought about it, the worse his opinion about flying Pokemon was. Although Alex had a negative attitude towards these flying Pokemon, he did nothing to stop this fight. He didn't want to catch the rest of the Ekin/Arbok Pokemon group anyway, and thus waste his time, so that he doesn't want to change this situation. Alex knew that he was indirectly responsible for the deaths of many Ekin/Arbok, but he didn't have a bad conscience about the deaths of these Pokemon. If certain Pokemon species eat other Pokemon to feed themselves, these Pokemon species should not be surprised to be eaten later. Apart from that, Alex knew how aggressive the Arbok species are towards other Pokemon. Although all Pokemon can survive from Pokemon berries, the Arbok species also like to eat other Pokemon often. Alex checked out the information on this large group of flying-type Pokemon and saw a pair of A-rank Pokemon that can be sold for a good price. He looked at Crobat and asked him to bring these Pokemon to him. At the same time, he instructs his Pokemon to prepare a move in case the large group suddenly attacks Alex's team after they notice that he was interfering. Alex thinks it's very unlikely because his group is so much stronger, and this large number of flying-type Pokemon is made up of several separate small groups of flying-type Pokemon, but when he thinks back to how many times he was attacked by arrogant flying-type Pokemon, he suddenly felt that it is not entirely implausible that a few of these Pokemon would attack his group. Crobat began to take off quickly and began preparing a move at the same time as he was approaching his first target. He was able to quickly hit his target, Spearow, and grab it with his legs, but when he tried to fly back towards Alex's group, he was followed by a couple of Fearow. Alex looked at the level and potential of the pursuers when he looked coldly at these Pokemon. Shallow Bronze Fearow at level 31. Bronze Fearow at level 27. Deep Bronze Fearow at level 30. Deep Bronze Fearow at level 36. Alex's expression got colder as he looked at the info. 4 Fiero with B rank potential and none above the elite level. Is that a joke? He said with an indifferent voice. Blaziken used flamethrower. Blaziken, who already prepared this move, used it immediately and hit 3 chasing Fieros. The 3 Fieros were hit and fell on the ground burning as they screamed painfully. After a few painful screams, the 3 Pokemon passed out, even though their whole bodies continued to burn. The last of the 3 Fieros saw how his group members take a very painful hit and how their unconscious bodies continued to burn on the ground. Not only did it look terrifying, but it also had a disgusting smell of burnt flesh. Not only did the last of the 3 Fiero Crobat stop chasing and start to run, but several other flying-type Pokemon, who saw this, started running away. Alex looked at Blaziken's face to see how she would react emotionally to it, but after seeing a proud smile, he realized that he was worrying for nothing. He started to look at Gravewar and saw that she doesn't show a special face even when she observed these cruel deaths from these 3 Pokemon. Alex knew, however, that Gardevoir was very reluctant to kill other living beings, even if they were the aggressors. He believed that as long as Gardevoir does not encounter a situation that endangers the life of him or his other Pokemon, she will not do such an act. But Alex did not plan to force her to do something like that anyway. Chapter 297, Alex caught the several unconscious Pokemon that Crobat and Ditto had returned him with a happy expression. In this group of caught Pokemon, there were several A-rank Pokemon under the elite rank and even a Spearow under level 20 and with an A-rank potential. Although the other A-rank Pokemon are from different species or are of a higher level, they could still be sold for a good price. This direct finding of several A-rank Pokemon on the same day is very rare, and Alex suddenly felt that he was lucky today. Alex already knew the information about the Pokemon before, but after capturing these Pokemon personally, he couldn't help but show a happy expression. The many different groups from this large number of flying-type Pokemon started flying away after suffering multiple attacks from Alex's group. Although there was a group that attacked Alex's group, despite the great difference in strength. Alex's Pokemon quickly defeated this arrogant group, which then causes almost all flying-type Pokemon to fly away through this renewed show of strength. Although there were still a few Pokemon that stayed behind, each of these Pokemon keeps a long distance from Alex and his Pokemon. Alex, who didn't need anything in this place, opened the map and went to the next marked area where Arbok's and Eakin's groups should be. Even though there are Pokemon that leave their territory, this is rarely the case with strong Pokemon or strong Pokemon groups, so it is very likely that this large group of Arboks and Ekans have not moved. After a few moments, Alex and his group went deeper into the forest while fighting other Pokemon regularly. Each of these Pokemon was very weak compared to Alex's group, and only a few Pokemon dared to attack Alex's group. Although each of these Pokemon did not have a good potential, it was, in Alex's opinion, a good opportunity to let Dano gain more combat experience. He even let Dano fight himself once without helping him to see how Dano fights by himself. But when he saw how Dano only using the move, Crunch, and that he didn't want to use any other move, Alex couldn't help but hold his head with a helpless expression. Alex thought with a confused expression, what's so great about biting other Pokemon? I don't think it's pleasant to bite someone, especially not for the taste buds. He began to think, with a thoughtful expression, is that one characteristic of the Dano species? At least I read that it tends to bite everything after it's born. Although later it should have less of the urge to want to bite everything, even if it did not say exactly when that is the case. It is probably always different. I hope it's just a phase and he won't do it much longer. Alex stopped thinking about it after seeing Dano defeat his opponent. He went to Dano and gave him praise but also criticism on how he could do better. But he always said something positive at the end and generally used more praise than criticism to give Dano a positive experience overall. After 20 minutes, Alex and his group came to the edge of a relatively large river that is occupied by several living Pokemon. There were also several Pokemon drinking water on the edge of the great river. These Pokemon were very close to each other and very different in terms of strength or species, but none of these Pokemon showed aggressive behavior to each other. Alex could even see a level 38 Persian drinking quietly next to a level 15 Rattata without attacking this free food. These Pokemon shared this river without the strong Pokemon hunting the weak Pokemon, although there are several Pokemon species among them that also like to eat other Pokemon species. He remembers in his old world where animals often did that when they drink in a water source, even when they have the chance to hunt prey. Alex looked at the information of every Pokemon he could see, and after confirming that there was nothing interesting for him to see, he moved on. His next target is on a similar route to this large river, so that Alex walked along the edge of this large river when he occasionally looked at the information from the swimming Pokemon. Alex walked this large river for more than 30 minutes along, without being attacked by a Pokemon, but also without having seen a Pokemon that had better talent than Deep Bronze. He and his Pokemon started to get closer to the next place with a large Arbok and Ekans group after they stopped walking along the river and went to the marked spot that should be close to his current location. Crobat and Gardevoir, who informed Alex the whole time about Pokemon position and strength, suddenly said a slightly different thing to him. Gardevoir, who can perceive the approximate strength with her psychic powers, tells Alex about one Pokemon less within 500 meters than Crobat had Alex told. Alex showed a serious expression when he experienced such a situation for the first time. Crobat's expression also got more serious when he said, "The Pokemon is running fast in our direction." Gardevoir showed a confused expression and said that she did not perceive any Pokemon nearby. Alex could only explain the matter so that a strong psychic-type Pokemon fooled the perception of Gardevoir. Quick! Start the reinforced plan. He let all his Pokemon strengthen at least once before this strong opponent came. Alex was able to find out from Crobat that this strong Pokemon was running, so Alex didn't worry that it couldn't get out when it gets too dangerous. Only a flying psychic type could be dangerous for his group, but a psychic type that did not have the speed of Crobat and that can't fly was not a big problem. Alex and his Pokemon would be able to escape at least if the Pokemon is too strong. When the Pokemon was only 100 meters away from Alex's group, Gardevoir suddenly felt the presence of this psychic-type Pokemon which she could not perceive before. Gardevoir showed a slightly concerned expression after she had perceived the energy of the psychic-type Pokemon. Chapter 298, Gardevoir felt the energy of this psychic-type Pokemon and realized that even if all of them fought together against this monster, they maybe didn't surely win. Alex looked in the direction where Gardevoir was looking, and after 3 seconds he suddenly saw a Hypno as it ran past a large bush. He immediately looked at the information about this Pokemon. Pokemon, Hypno. LD, 54. Type, Psychic. Abilities, Forewarn. Gender, Male. Potential, Shallow Gold. Alex's expression got very serious when he saw the information from this monster, but he hardly had time to process this information properly before Gardevoir warned the whole group with a serious expression. Watch out, he's collecting some psychic energy from his body. Alex, who heard this, suddenly had a bad feeling. He started to look at the floor when he said quickly looked somewhere else and not. But when Alex warned his Pokemon, Hypno had already finished preparing his move. Hypno was using the move, Hypnosis, and all of Alex's Pokemon except Umbreon fell asleep on the ground. Although moves like Hypnosis also work against Dark-type Pokemon, they are weakened against Dark-type Pokemon so that it is much more difficult to make such a Pokemon fall asleep successfully. Dano was only sent to sleep by this move because the difference in strength between him and Hypno was too great for his advantageous Dark-type to prevent that. Alex, who looked at the ground, felt that the psychic energy in his surroundings had disappeared, so that he turned his gaze back to his sleeping Pokemon and Hypno. When he saw that only Umbreon was awake, his face became tense. He knew exactly how the move, Hypnosis, worked in this world, but he hadn't thought that this move on the Master rank would be so ridiculous. Hypnosis had a lot of restrictions on the normal and on the expert rank, similar to moves like Destiny Bond or Disable, so it is extremely difficult to use this move efficiently even if it is very strong. And even on the Master rank, it has several restrictions that strongly limit this move. Even if Hypnosis is on the Master rank, Hypno cannot use this move effectively against Pokemon that are of a higher level than him. At least not with such a high probability of success as against Pokemon with the same or lower level than Hypno. In addition, the effectiveness of Hypnosis can be greatly reduced if the target hit is not looking at Hypno. Apart from the fact that the attack range also influences the effectiveness of the move, Hypnosis, so that this move is not impossible to dodge. Although the effectiveness of Hypnosis increases when the target looked at the pendulum of Hypno, this bonus was not even necessary to let all of Alex's non-dark type Pokemon fall asleep due to the big difference in level. The big difference in level, together with the move mastery of Hypnosis, ensures that all Pokemon except Umbreon fell asleep even if they only look at Hypno. Hypno, who was 50 yards from Alex's group, looked happy as he saw that almost all of his targets were now helpless against him. Alex didn't have time to worry about the arrogant attitude from this Hypno when he started calling Vulpix, Banette, and Dano back to their Pokeballs. Each of these Pokemon would not survive a real attack by Hypno even with the help of their life energy, so that he wants to bring them directly to safety. Apart from the fact that they are not useful in this fight and except to tank an attack and die in the process. Even in this bad position, Alex wasn't ready to lose even one of his Pokemon. Alex then looked at his other sleeping Pokemon and he estimated that it would make more sense to call the rest of his Pokemon back to their Pokeballs and let them wake up there. Especially when he remembers what this Hypno could use. He didn't want to find out how much harm a Dream Eater on the Master rank can do to his Pokemon. Alex quickly called all his Pokemon back to their Pokeballs except Umbreon, as he continued to look at Hypno to see what it was doing. He also uses a lot of his psychic energy to be able to better perceive the psychic energy in the area around Hypno, so that he can react to it when this Hypno tries again to use Hypnosis to make himself fall asleep. Hypno, who felt that the fight is already over, started running in the direction of Umbreon with a grin. The Hypno species is not very fast, but because of its high level, it was almost as fast as Crobat. Alex reacted quickly when he saw this. Keep your distance from Hypno. Try to hold out as long as possible. Umbreon showed no expression of fear while she watched as Hypno, who is a lot stronger than herself, ran towards her with a creepy smile. She only showed a cold expression, and the only thing that betrayed her emotions was her eyes, which had a wave of thick anger and bloodthirst in them. Umbreon had an extreme hatred towards this Hypno, who dared to attack her family, and the only reason why she is not attacking this Hypno directly is that she remembers Alex's words that such a thoughtless action could endanger the life of her family. She was able to suppress these strong feelings for the safety of her family. Alex, who felt the strongest threat to his life and the life of his family in his lifetime, noticed that his arms were shaking a bit, and he thought to himself, don't worry, this Hypno can't use a move on the expert rank that can harm Umbreon. We just have to hold on. Although Alex knew that the situation is not as easy as he said, he managed to calm himself down a bit with this simplification of this situation. Alex knows that he doesn't have the liberty to panic. He devoted all his concentration to completely defuse this danger while he tried to stop thinking about that danger. Chapter 299, Hypno ran in front of Umbreon and immediately started preparing a move without moving any further. Alex saw that and he immediately understood what the problem with Hypno was. Because there was no move above the normal rank that can be used against Umbreon, he had to use moves where he couldn't run at the same time. Alex started showing a small smile as he telepathically said, Umbreon, kite him and prepare, payback. Umbreon began to keep his distance from Hypno to prevent the Hypno from being immediately within reach with his normal rank moves. Hypno looked annoyed when he finished preparing the move, Headbutt, but was more than 40 meters away from Umbreon. He started running quickly towards Umbreon to get in range to use his finished prepared move. Umbreon started running away to delay even more time, even if she is a good deal slower than Hypno. It only took Hypno a few moments to catch up with Umbreon, and after he was only a meter away from Umbreon he used the move, Headbutt. Umbreon was hit and suffered a large head wound after that hit, but she didn't show any expression of pain after the hit and used almost immediately, Payback, to hit Hypno. Hypno was hit by Payback, but only sustained little damage and showed only a despised look at this attack. Alex saw the state of the two Pokemon and knew that Umbreon had suffered a lot of damage from this hit. He would estimate 40% or even more of Umbreon's HP disappeared after that hit, even though the Hypno had used such an inefficient move. Alex thought with a serious expression, fortunately, the bodies of wild Pokemon are much weaker than Pokemon of trainers, or Umbreon would even have a problem withstanding two attacks from this Hypno. If Hypno's headbutt were on the master rank, Umbreon would have been knocked out with one hit, with no chance of a counterblow. In comparison, Hypno looked as if he had hardly been harmed, even though he had to endure the strongest attack from Umbreon. Alex saw this but showed a calm expression. He felt that the damage from Hypno was still okay and even a little less than he expected. He said telepathically to Umbreon, "Use, work up, and then get ready to use Protect to block his attack. At the same time, keep your distance to delay even more time." Alex takes full advantage of the fact that Hypno can only move on the normal rank. Hypno saw Umbreon start running away from him again as she prepared for a move and began to look annoyed. He understood that he had to quickly defeat this human and this Pokemon or the other Pokemon will soon wake up. Hypno knows from experience that if Hypnosis is used twice against that same opponent in a short time, the move, Hypnosis, becomes more difficult to work. He knew that Hypnosis had this big problem when fights last too long, and that's why he wants to end this fight quickly. The level difference between Hypno and most of Alex's Pokemon is not big enough to compensate for this disadvantage, so that it is unlikely that Hypno can send all of Alex's Pokemon to sleep again. Hypno stopped smiling when it noticed that its situation was getting worse and worse after every second, but when it looked at Alex, who was more than 50 meters away, it started to smile again. It immediately started running towards Alex while assembling his psychic energy from its body. Alex saw Hypno using a move and running at the same time, and he understood almost immediately what this Hypno wanted to do. He started collecting his psychic energy in his body and started preparing his energy shield. Umbreon saw this, and because she is closer to Alex than she was to Hypno, Umbreon began to block Hypno's path with her body. Hypno saw what Umbreon was trying to do, but only showed a look of contempt as he sped past Umbreon at his much faster speed. Umbreon tried desperately to stop Hypno with her body but was not nearly fast or strong enough to block Hypno from running past her. Hypno, who now had a completely clear line of fire, immediately used Psybeam. Psybeam was extremely fast, and Alex just managed to use his energy shield that he had already prepared. At the same time, he made his body as small as possible and used his arms as a shield to protect his head and upper body. Alex, who tried to avoid that Psybeam, couldn't make it when Psybeam moved a bit downwards like a steering rocker and hit him, even though he had made himself so small. Energy shield catch the hit before Alex's body was hit, but even after Alex put all his psychic energy into this energy shield, it couldn't block the whole hit. Although most of the strength of Psybeam was blocked, the rest of that Psybeam hit Alex, who has used his arms to protect his head and upper body. Alex's body was sent flying like a kickball, and only after it rolled over the ground for more than 20 meters did Alex's body stop. Although the bodies of people in this world are much better than in Alex's old world, Alex's body was almost completely broken after this hit. Both of his arms were completely broken and looked as if they had been hit by an enormous hammer. In addition, Alex had a large head wound that was bleeding, and together with the many wounds all over his upper body, Alex's body was stained with a lot of blood. Alex survived this hit but was knocked unconscious because of his head wound. Umbreon, who saw Alex not standing up or even moving, felt an indescribable pain. Umbreon's face shows an expression of despair. She started crying and looking at Hypno with a look of pure hatred. Hypno looked at Umbreon and just showed an indifferent expression. When Umbreon wanted to run in the direction of Hypno, suddenly saw two Pokemon coming from Alex's Pokeballs. Gardevoir and Scizor woke up and immediately left their Pokeballs after seeing Alex's body. Scizor's expression was extremely cold, and he immediately started running in the direction of Hypno. Gardevoir's expression was full of concern and only got easier after seeing Alex's life wasn't in danger. After knowing that, she started looking in the direction of Hypno with an extremely cold expression. Words couldn't describe how much Gardevoir hated this Hypno. Chapter 300. While Gardevoir looked at Hypno, she suddenly noticed a large group of Pokemon running in this direction. She didn't know why such a large group of Pokemon suddenly ran in this direction, but she had a bad feeling when she saw Hypno's relaxed expression. Especially because there are more than 10 elite-level Pokemon in this group. Even if almost none of these elite Pokemon had higher energy than her and, according to Gardevoir's assessment, are only between levels 40 and 45, this group should not be underestimated. Also in this group was a Pokemon with higher energy than her, which only made the situation worse. According to Gardevoir's estimation, this Pokemon has a level around 52 or 53 and is only a bit weaker than Hypno. Scizor didn't know anything about it and began to fight Hypno together with Umbreon. Hypno uses Psybeam against Scizor and, despite the ineffectiveness, inflicted a lot of damage on him. Scizor loses almost 50% of his HP from this one move, although he normally doesn't take much damage against Psychic-type moves. But he still showed an indifferent expression and used the move, X-Scissor, that he had prepared. Umbreon used Toxic to do permanent damage to Hypno, but notice that after it hits Hypno, that he had an indifferent expression after Hypno was hit by Toxic. It looked like Toxic against it was almost completely useless and couldn't produce its full potency. Umbreon wished at this moment that she had trained Toxic on the expert rank so that its effectiveness is at least not so restricted and that she was a poison-type Pokemon to be able to use this move more effectively. Gardevoir saw that the situation was getting worse and worse and said telepathically to Scizor and Umbreon, "We don't have time for it. A group of many elite Pokemon is coming in our direction and I have a suspicion that they have something to do with this Hypno. Coming to me and I will teleport us away before he builds up a field that prevents that." She knew that this field couldn't be easily set up and even needed half a minute of pure concentration from the Psychic-type Pokemon who wanted to use this ability. The problem is that once Hypno has created this field, Gardevoir can only use Teleport if she is on a higher level than Hypno or is no longer close to Hypno. Gardevoir used the whole time to talk to Scizor and Umbreon and to convince them not to keep fighting. Father is still alive and we. Scizor and Umbreon calmed down after hearing these words from Gardevoir and stopped struggling with the Hypno. Although they were still extremely angry with this Hypno, both knew that Hypno plus more elite Pokemon is not something they have a chance at, even if the rest of them woke up. As long as Alex was still alive and there is still hope to save him, they can get revenge later. Hypno saw the Umbreon and Scizor running in the direction of Gardevoir. He thought that these Pokemon ran away after seeing his strength and showed a small smile. With his psychic powers, he has already called his group of subordinates and called his life partner, after he had noticed Alex's group for the first time. Hypno didn't call them because he thought he needed help in this fight, but because he wanted his subordinates and his life partner to pick up their food themselves after that fight. Unfortunately, this group had a Dark-type Pokemon with good strength, so his plan didn't work out. Hypno was not chasing Scizor or Umbreon but was preparing Disable to maybe prevent their escape. But when he was almost finished, Umbreon and Scizor were already before Gardevoir and they teleport away from this place. Hypno looked with a slightly disappointed expression as he cancelled his Disable and saw a large group of Arbok approaching him. Gardevoir, who wanted to use Teleport, quickly did not teleport very far from the place where they were fighting against this Hypno. Alex and his Pokemon were back at the large river and only a few kilometers away from Hypno. Scizor and Umbreon immediately went next to Alex and formed a protective circle to prevent surprise attacks from other Pokemon. Although this area is relatively peaceful, neither of them wanted to take a risk. Crobat woke up and left his Pokeball looking confused and angry. He didn't understand why his trainer suddenly lay on the floor with several large blood wounds or why they were back at this large river. Umbreon and Scizor didn't explain anything but used their full attention to protect Alex. Gardevoir immediately started preparing a healing move and immediately used it on Alex after he finished. She was using Heal Pulse, and Alex started to heal visibly. Alex's body stopped bleeding and his arms no longer looked like they were completely broken. In addition, his head wound was visibly healed after a few seconds. Gardevoir gave a relieved expression and began to tell Crobat what happened while she told him that they should coordinate with each other if this Hypno is coming their way. For example, if Crobat can perceive a Pokemon more than she can, both of them know that this Pokemon is Hypno and have enough time to react to this situation. But for that to work, Gardevoir and Crobat must coordinate the whole time, so the Gardevoir explains in one sentence what happened in order not to lose much time. While Gardevoir and Crobat verify whether they are being chased, Alex's Pokémon start waking up one after the other. During this time nothing happens and several minutes pass very peacefully. Umbreon told the other Pokémon what happened, and every Pokémon from Alex had an angry expression when she talked about this Hypno. The hatred for this Pokémon in Alex's group reached an unimaginable extent. Alex woke up after a few more minutes with a big headache and a confused expression. He looked at the faces of his Pokémon, all of which had worried expressions, and Alex showed a smile, to not let his family worry, even if he still felt pain in his arms and head. Alex tried to show a relaxed expression when he said to his Pokémon, "Don't make also a face. I'm perfectly fine." Then he looked around and saw that he was back at that big river. With the corner of his eyes, he suddenly saw the information from a Pokémon in this river, and he showed a surprised expression. Pokémon, Horsia. LV, 19. Type, Water. Abilities, Sniper. Gender, Male. Potential, Shallow Gold. Chapter 301. Although this Horsia didn't have a particularly good potential as a born Shallow Gold Pokémon compared to Alex's other Pokémon, it had many other advantages that made Alex want to add this Horsia to his group. Kingdra, the species to which this Horsia can evolve, is not only extremely strong but hardly had any weak spots and is generally an all-rounder without significant weakness. Above all, this Pokémon species is less restricted on land than many other water-type Pokémon due to its tail-like lower body, which allows it to move relatively well on the surface even if it does not have the same agility or speed as it has at the water. Kingdra, like many different water-type Pokémon, can also survive on land for several hours or even days without water, and with the help of a dive ball or a net ball, this Pokémon will always have a place to recharge its water supply. Alex was particularly impressed with Horsia's ability, Sniper, and his innate talent moves. Sniper, plus focus energy on the master rank, is just a thought that Alex can't suppress when he saw this Horsia. Especially if a crit landed successfully with that move, Outrage, on the master rank, the damage would be absurdly powerful. The only thing that is not optimal on this Horsia, according to Alex, is his potential that is not particularly good compared to his other Pokémon. Bastiodon, Blaziken, and Umbreon all have a born Shallow Gold potential and therefore have the same potential talent as Horsia has. This is still a very good potential, and Alex was happy with it even if he already had two Pokémon with a born Gold potential and even had a Pokémon with a born Deep Gold potential. It's just one thing he noticed that this Pokémon was missing to get his perfect rating from him. Still, Alex was satisfied with the potential. He doesn't expect to find a born Gold water-type Pokémon, and he didn't think he'd be as lucky again to find a born Deep Gold potential. Especially because Alex believes that born Deep Gold are ridiculously rare and even rarer than Half-Blood legendary Pokémon. He was very sure of that. Alex knew that even very strong future champions only have one Pokémon with an born Deep Gold potential. Steven's Metagross was the only born Deep Gold Pokémon that Steven owned and his absolute trump card. Alex knew that Steven would be one of the strongest trainers in the world in the future and that the Metagross would remain his strongest Pokémon later on. He was the optimal example for Alex to determine the rarity of born Deep Gold Pokémon. That's why Alex believed that born Deep Gold Pokémon are much rarer than Half-Blood legendary Pokémon. Apart from the fact that they are better in Alex's opinion. Half-Blood legendary Pokémon are born with a shallow diamond potential, but these Pokémon cannot improve their potential any further, which makes it impossible for these Pokémon to achieve a diamond potential talent. Although even with this big flaw, Alex would still catch a Half-Blood legendary Pokémon as a trainer if he had the chance. He stopped thinking about the potential of this Horsia and started looking with a bright expression at the Horsia that was barely visible in this large river. Vulpix, like the rest of Alex's Pokémon, worried when they saw Alex go unresponsive for a few seconds after he woke up. "Father, why are you showing such a strange expression? Are you okay?" Alex looked at Vulpix and his other Pokémon, all of which had a worried expression, and said with a soft expression, "Yes, I'm fine. Thanks to all of you." Vulpix showed a happy expression and said aloud, "That's all thanks to Big Sister Umbreon. She was the one who saved us all." The other Pokemon began to nod in agreement when Vulpix said these words. Even Crobat and Scizor gave the whole tribute to Umbreon without saying a word. Umbreon, who was doused with warm looks and words of praise, showed a shy expression. At the same time, she said that she hadn't done much. Alex, who knew what a wild expression Umbreon showed to other Pokemon or unknown people, showed a slight smile when he saw the shy expression of Umbreon. When Alex enjoyed this warm atmosphere, he suddenly felt that he had almost forgotten something. He looked at his Pokemon and said with a smile, "Which of you thinks that you can swim well?" No Pokemon spoke for 3 seconds before suddenly Ditto created a hand with his body and said at the same moment, "I can transform myself into one of these water-type Pokemon in this river, and then I should be able to swim very well." Alex looked at Ditto and said with a smile, "That would be great, Ditto. I'm really glad that our group has you." Ditto's face hardly changed when he heard these words, but Gardevoir felt that Ditto felt very happy and embarrassed at this moment. Gardevoir started to laugh slightly when she looked at Ditto's emotionless expression. Alex doesn't know why Gardevoir laughed and looked at Ditto, but he had a suspicion. He looked at Ditto and said, "Do you see this Horsia? Bring it over, please." Ditto nodded and turned into Golduck and began to enter this large river. Fortunately, many Pokemon were visible in Ditto's sight, so he had a wide variety of water-type Pokemon to transform into. Crobat watched as Ditto began to swim in the direction of this Horsia and said to Alex, "Why are you suddenly so much softer? Did you lose your manhood from the injury?" Alex, who was in a very good mood, heard the words of Crobat and just looked unemotional in the direction of Crobat when he said, "Crobat, what's going on?" Crobat said nothing for a few seconds. Alex looked at Crobat and said, "If you blame yourself for this, then all I can say is that it has nothing to do with you." Crobat looked at Alex with an angry expression and said, "What are you talking about? I couldn't do anything about it. How can it not be my fault?" Scizor, who was listening to this conversation, said with an annoyed expression, "Can you stop being so arrogant? We have all failed in this situation, not just you." The rest of the Pokemon nodded in agreement when Scizor said those words. Even Umbreon showed an expression that she had made a lot of mistakes. Alex saw his family pretending to be at fault and his expression got a bit angry. "Are you the leader or me? None of you made a mistake, and even thinking about this nonsense makes me angry. I recognized the danger too late and drew us into this danger. My arrogant attitude was to blame and nothing else." Umbreon, who heard that, went in front of Alex and explained to him what she had done wrong according to her opinion and that it was not Alex's fault. Alex showed an indifferent expression and ended the topic with the words, "As the leader, I am responsible for assessing the dangers of incidents." Chapter 302, Alex quickly put an end to this nonsense. He did not want to push his responsibility on his Pokemon, so that he ended the subject with these straightforward words. He knew that his Pokemon had nothing to do with the fact that this situation had developed like this and that they had done nothing incorrectly. Alex knew exactly that a strong psychic Pokemon with greater strength than Gardevoir was coming in their direction, due to the fact that Gardevoir can only perceive this Pokemon very late, but he does not react optimally with this knowledge. Even if Gardevoir had noticed this Pokemon late, he had Crobat who gave him more than enough time to react. Despite the hints and possible dangers, Alex greeted these dangers with a superior attitude. He thought that his many escape alternatives would always give him an option to escape when things get too dangerous. It wasn't as if it was impossible to guess such a possible danger. Especially when he considers that there are not many Kanto psychic Pokemon species and that it is not unlikely that this strong psychic-type Pokemon is a Hypno with the dangerous move, Hypnosis. Alex didn't think it was impossible to see such a plausible danger as a possibility. Although he had to admit that this Hypno had Hypnosis on the master rank was a little unfortunate. This dangerous situation recalls Alex that many Pokemon have many weird moves that can quickly become dangerous for trainers and Pokemon. It also reminds him of his first encounter with Victreebel, who almost led him and his Pokemon to his death with his sweet aroma of honey. Alex saw how Ditto and the Horsia were swimming towards his group and he began to watch Horsia attentively again. Horsia, who followed Ditto with a slightly reluctant expression, came in front of Alex's group and changed his expression to a scared expression when he looked at Alex's other Pokemon. He's never seen such a large group of elite-level Pokemon, and he didn't understand why he suddenly had to follow this Golduck. But Horsia knew of the law of strength and did not dare to oppose this strong Golduck. Alex looked at Horsia and tried to make a somewhat friendly expression. After realizing that Horsia was still looking very nervous and not being influenced by his friendly smile, Alex stopped smiling and started directly talking to Horsia. Alex said in a serious tone, "Horsia, I know you're confused about why I called you here, but don't worry, we won't hurt you. I just want to talk to you." Horsia looked at Alex and said nothing, even if his expression hadn't changed after the words of Alex. Alex looked at Horsia and said, "What would you think of joining our group and becoming a family member to us?" Horsia showed a surprised and confused expression after hearing Alex's words. He couldn't understand why the leader of this powerful group of elite Pokemon wanted to invite him. After calming down a bit, he said with a serious expression, "Okay, but I have a request." Alex smiled when he heard that. "Can you tell me what your request is?" He was ready to accept many requests if that would allow Horsia to join his group willingly, and he also didn't think this Horsia would ask for something unattainable. Alex already had a lot of ideas about what it could be. He would promise to train him to an elite-level Pokemon, or he should promise to help him to fulfill a task that he can only do with his strength, were his two biggest guesses. Horsia looked nervously at Alex and quietly said the words, "Can you provide me with enough food if I join?" Alex looked surprised when he heard such a ridiculously easy request. He looked at Horsia's body to find out why he might be asking for something like that. But to him, it didn't look as if this Horsia was plagued by hunger or that he was eating too much. Horsia got more anxious and nervous after every second that Alex just looked at him without saying anything. He already thought that he had maybe insulted this terrifying human and that he will suffer today. Alex gave an uncertain expression when he couldn't see anything in particular about Horsia's body, and he said, "Okay, no problem." Horsia, who had heard this direct and easy answer, after he began to think that he would lose his life today, showed an expression of shock. At that moment he didn't understand this human anymore or what was happening now. Alex was a little puzzled why this Horsia looked so shocked, but he said with a smile, "Welcome to the family." After that, every Pokemon from Alex started going to Horsia and welcoming him. Horsia, who saw the friendly words and kind faces of these powerful elite-level Pokemon, looked confused but still felt as if he had made the right decision. Alex saw Horsia start to loosen up a bit and he gave a smile. He waited a few minutes and let him talk to his other Pokemon to let him calm down a bit after seeing that Horsia was still showing a careful expression. After seeing that Horsia started to smile more often, he also went to Horsia and started to talk to him. Alex said with an easy voice, "Horsia, I'm a little curious. Can you tell me why you chose food as your request?" Horsia suddenly looked serious at Alex as he said, "Food is the most important thing to survive," then said in a whispered tone, "Also, I like it." Alex started laughing slightly. "Haha, don't worry. You can eat as much as you want as long as you do your daily training. I already have 2 big eaters here, so the one more doesn't make a difference." Then he looked at Dano and Bastiodon with a smile. Dano heard what Alex was saying and started biting Alex's feet with an irritated expression. He thought his dad was telling lies about him again. He didn't think he was eating much. Alex felt Dano nibble on his shoes, but he ignored it. He knew Dano was just playing and not using too much biting force to hurt him. Horsia showed a happy expression after receiving the promise of plenty of food from Alex. Alex then grabbed a dive ball and presented before Horsia. Dive ball is a Pokeball that is often used as a house for water-type Pokemon because in this dive ball, the environment largely consists of water and it is, therefore, the ideal home for water-type Pokemon. Alex also uses this Pokeball precisely because of this environment for water-type Pokemon. Chapter 303, Alex looked at the Horsia's dive ball and said with a smile, "You can always come out if you want, or you can stay in this Pokeball if you feel uncomfortable on the land." Horsia left his dive ball and said with a serious expression, "I don't really feel very uncomfortable on land." Only when I'm out of the water for several hours. I feel a little uncomfortable. Alex started to have a short talk with Horsia when this conversation was interrupted by Dano. Dano went to Horsia and started talking to him about his favorite food. Horsia and Dano got along well so that Alex watched their conversation only with a smile without interrupting them. He was glad that Dano and Horsia get along so well. Alex looked at his other Pokemon and noticed how Gardevoir and Crobat were constantly exchanging information about the Pokemon and the surroundings they could perceive. He immediately understood why they were doing this and he began to show a serious expression. Alex knew that his Pokemon did this to prevent Hypno from attacking them unnoticed. Alex also noticed how angry his Pokemon looked when they talked about this Hypno. Alex didn't have any negative feelings about this Hypno. He has no particular interest in revenge or in fighting this Hypno again. It was similar for him to the moment he and his Pokemon were almost killed by a Victreebel and he wasn't interested in revenge against Victreebel. Alex thinks of himself as a vengeful person, but he just cannot see most of the Pokemon in this way. Most of them hunt for food to improve their potential or to survive. It is nothing personal and more natural. Or at least that's what it felt like to Alex. Umbreon came to Alex and said with a slightly angry expression, "Leader, when are we going to attack this Hypno and take revenge?" Alex, who heard the word of Umbreon, didn't show a surprised expression and said casually, "Take revenge? I don't think it's necessary." Umbreon looked shocked. What? Alex's other Pokemon also showed surprised expressions when they heard Alex's words. Crobat stopped looking surprised after a few seconds and started looking at Alex with a slightly angry expression. "Are you completely stupid or why do you want to leave something like that unpunished? Why do I even ask you? Of course, you're stupid if you're going to do something like that." Sizer also looked at Alex with an angry expression. "Although I don't want to agree to this large bat application." He is right. We have to take revenge. Alex, who observed this strong reaction from Crobat and Sizer, looked at his other Pokemon and saw that the rest of the Pokemon also opposed Alex's response. Gardevoir looked at Alex and said with a slightly angry expression, "Father, if one of us got hurt by this Hypno, you would try to get revenge immediately. Why don't you want to do that for yourself? That's not okay. You cannot treat yourself so badly." Ditto, who was always quiet, suddenly said to Alex, "We all want to take revenge on this Hypno after he almost killed you. We won't change our minds." Bastiodon nodded to Ditto's words and said, "Father, you will feel all our resistance if you try to discourage us from this." Alex and the rest of the Pokemon who heard these dominant words from Bastiodon all showed a surprised expression. Blaziken said after a few seconds, "Wow, Brother Bastiodon, that was really a manly sentence. I didn't imagine you had this side of you." Bastiodon, who wasn't sure whether it was an insult or a compliment, showed a confused expression. Although he still showed a slightly happy expression. Blaziken then saw Bastiodon's expression and showed a helpless expression. "You can't hold it for more than a few seconds, can you?" Then she looked at Alex and said aloud, "And Father, don't think I've forgotten you. How dare you want to let this Hypno get away with something like that? You will take revenge on him or we will start a rebellion." Crobat and Sizer showed an agreeing expression after hearing Blaziken's words, even though the rest of the Pokemon disagree with the word rebellion. Gardevoir started stroking Blaziken's head as she said, "Little sister, we don't have to use words like that. I'm sure Father understands what we're trying to tell him." Alex, who heard the statements from his Pokemon, said nothing and only listened to what his Pokemon had to say. But he heard the word rebellion. He couldn't help but roll his eyes. He looked at Blaziken, Crobat, and Sizer with a serious expression and said, "Do you know what that word rebellion means?" Blaziken looked at Alex with a serious expression, but after a few seconds with Alex's glance, she showed an expression like that of a child who recognized his mistake. In comparison, Crobat or Sizer didn't change their expression after seeing Alex's stare. Crobat even said after a few seconds, "Do you think I don't know what such a simple word means? But do you know what the word exaggeration meant?" Alex grabbed his head and showed an annoyed expression even if he felt secretly very happy. He felt the extreme hatred of his Pokemon toward Hypno, and he could understand why they feel this way. He looked at Umbreon and said, "Umbreon, tell me what happened after I passed out. Tell everything. Even the smallest details." Umbreon told everything that happened after Alex passed out, and Gardevoir added little things from time to time. She also added information on the exact strength of the several elite-level Pokemon that ran in the direction of Hypno. Alex immediately understood that it was not by chance that so many elite Pokemon were coming in the direction of Hypno. It is very likely that Hypno had called reinforcements, so that he has to consider that information if he wanted to fight this Hypno again. Alex would not ignore this likely danger. He began to think about the best tactics to reduce the strength of this Hypno and how he can minimize the danger of the multiple elite-level Pokemon to make this fight moderately safe for him and his Pokemon. He quickly had a good plan that greatly reduced the risk of Hypno. Although there are still a few small pieces that he has to work on, he has that unpolished plan. Alex looked at his Pokemon with a smile as he said, "Okay, we'll take revenge on this Hypno." Chapter 304, One day later in Vermilion City. Alex woke up early in the morning and he left his bed with slight pain in his body. Although Gardevoir had healed his injury, his body was not completely free of pain, even if he can now move like a fully healthy person without problems. But even with this slight pain, Alex was again very impressed with the irrelevance of non-fatal injuries in this world. It would normally take at least several months of healing to be able to use his completely broken arms again so easily in his old world, but in this world, this injury can be healed in less than 1 minute without great investment. After he had decided to take revenge on this Hypno, Alex did not go directly to the Hypno but paused himself and his Pokemon in a hotel as he prepared the things for his plan. For this preparation, he has to go to a city anyway, so that he is ready to delay his revenge for 1 extra day. In addition, his body needed enough time to recharge it with enough psychic energy so that he doesn't plan to fight this Hypno again immediately. Alex wants to have enough psychic energy to be able to use Energy Shield again in an emergency if his plan goes wrong. He'd rather have one more emergency plan than one less, even if he had to wait a day. Although Alex often uses risky plans in fights, he is in circumstances with his life as a bet, extremely cautious, and plans for many dangers. Against Misty, for example, he was ready to bet his whole plan's success on Misty being distracted by his words and giving Sizer enough time to buff, even though it was extremely risky. Alex prefers to use stable and reliable plans even in non-life endangered fights if he can, but, with fights with a large strength difference, he knew that he could not have this luxury. In the Kanto Rookie Tournament, all of his victories against stronger, level, trainers were only possible because his opponents did not immediately react optimally to his plan. If he had fought against a trainer with 3 higher level Pokemon and this trainer had reacted optimally to his tactics, Alex could not have done anything to change that. But in the fight for life and death, Alex also meets opponents where he could win against these Pokemon with a relatively risky tactic. However, whenever it comes to the life of his Pokemon or himself, he always takes the safest and most stable plan. He only bet with his life if it's the best way. If there isn't a good chance of victory, he'll just avoid fighting altogether in battles that have the life of him and his Pokemon as a bet. Alex often does this when he sees Pokemon in the wilderness where he estimates that thus Pokemon can jeopardize the life of him or his Pokemon if not everything works out optimally. After Alex had showered and prepared breakfast for himself and his Pokemon, he started opening his TRH device. He buys 2 TMs and waits for a transfer request to get the items. Alex looked at his Pokemon that eat their breakfast and he said with a smile, "Gardevoir, Blaziken, I have 2 presents for you." His other Pokemon looked curiously at the TMs in Alex's hand, but after they saw which TM it was, Alex's other Pokemon understood why Alex had only bought these TMs for Gardevoir and Blaziken. After Gardevoir and Blaziken had learned the TMs, Alex looked at his remaining Pokemon. "Okay, it's time." Alex and his Pokemon were walking along the Vermilion Forest again, even if they each had a much serious expression on their expressions this time. The atmosphere was very quiet, and without the short verbal exchanges between Gardevoir and Crobat, there would be no sound from Alex's group coming as they walked forward. Even the 2 young Pokemon, Dano and Horsia, were very calm today, even if they received instructions from Alex to stay in their Pokeballs. Vulpix and Banat are allowed to take part in this fight, but Alex did not allow these two Pokemon to take part in the direct fight against Hypno. He had other reasons why he allowed these two to take part in this fight. Crobat, who exchanged information from the Pokemon in the area all the time, suddenly noticed that he can perceive a Pokemon more than Gardevoir within 300 meters. Alex made a serious expression and called all Pokemon except Crobat back to their Pokeballs. He looked at Crobat and said, "Fly us 2 kilometers away from here." Crobat didn't ask and grabbed Alex with his feet, as he flew away from this place with an extremely fast speed. In less than 1 minute, Alex and Crobat came to a quiet place that is barely covered with trees. Alex again called all of his Pokemon from their Pokeballs except for the 2 young Pokemon. "Okay, next, reinforce yourself, as always." Because the reinforcement moves in this world get weaker and weaker with time after the use, Alex had come up with this method to bypass this problem. First, he finds out where the target is and then he flies away with his superior speed of Crobat, to a place where he gives his Pokemon enough time and peace to buff themselves to the pinnacle with reinforcement moves. Alex looked at Crobat and Gardevoir. "And you too, please keep exchanging the information from the Pokemon in the surroundings." Crobat and Gardevoir do that and made it impossible for this Hypno to make a surprise attack. Alex was very satisfied that his Pokemon could now not only buff themselves to the maximum but that the Hypno had no idea that it was happening. Hypno probably thinks that Alex ran away after seeing him and nothing more. After Alex saw that every one of his Pokemon had buffed himself to the limit, he said with a smile, "Okay, now, let's start with the most important part of my plan." Chapter 305, Vulpix looked curiously at Alex as she said, "What is the most important part of the plan, exactly?" The rest of Alex's Pokemon are also looking curiously at Alex's answer. Alex looked at his Pokemon and said with a small smile, "Use substitutes." That's the plan. Vulpix thought Alex was joking at first, but after seeing Alex's expression she knew he was serious. She looked slightly frowning at Alex when she said, "And you call that the most important part?" What a disappointment. Even though Alex smiled, he said with a serious expression, "Just because it's the most important part it doesn't mean it's the most difficult or complicated part of the plan. Although, substitute, on the normal rank is destroyed by every attack from Hypno, it can still absorb most of the damage from one move. But that wasn't the most important trait of this move. Substitute creates an invisible second skin that not only protects the whole body but also the ears and eyes of that Pokemon from many dangers. For example, Crobat could look at the sun for hours when using Substitute, without getting eye pain or being affected by the brightness of the sun. This special feature of Substitute can be used to completely block Hypnosis, while his Pokemon can still see Hypno at the same time. Although Alex can just tell his Pokemon not to look at Hypno while fighting, it is a major hindrance for most of his Pokemon. Only Crobat or Gardevoir would not be limited by it. Alex knew that after one of his Pokemon was hit by an attack move from Hypno, that it is no longer protected by Hypnosis, but that is only a danger if he and his Pokemon forget this fact. As long as he reminds his Pokemon after losing their Substitute not to look at Hypno, this weakness shouldn't be a problem. Every Pokemon from Alex used Substitute and waited for Alex's next command. Alex walked next to Crobat and said with a serious expression, "Okay, we're running back together, now." Everyone runs at the same speed and takes care not to run too fast. "Crobat, you are carrying me." Although he can teleport directly to this place with Gardevoir, Alex wasn't sure whether this place is already occupied by Hypno. "Gardevoir, Crobat. You know what to do." After they have done this so often recently, they do it almost automatically even without Alex telling them. Alex's group started running and flying at a good speed after receiving the signal from Alex. It only took a little more than 1 minute before Alex's group was back in the same place where Gardevoir and Crobat discovered Hypno. Gardevoir and Crobat informed Alex that Hypno is only 150 meters away and that Hypno comes with a quick pace in their direction. "Is he alone?" Gardevoir and Crobat nodded both to Alex's question. Alex's serious face broke into a smile after hearing that. He wasn't afraid of Hypno alone after his Pokemon were completely buffed and he had countered Hypno's two strongest moves. Alex was much more concerned about the many elite Pokemon that seemed to have something to do with Hypno. Hypno, almost exactly like last time, became visible to Alex's group in the dense forest, and like last time he immediately started to prepare a move. Pokemon, Hypno. LV, 54. Type, Psychic. Abilities, Forewarn. Gender, Male. Potential, Shallow Gold. Alex immediately looked at the floor after seeing Hypno. He also said, "Okay. Defeat him as soon as possible." All of Alex's Pokemon except Vulpix and Banette moved quickly towards Hypno. Alex knew that the two were too weak to be of any use to him in this fight, but they were strong enough to block one move of Hypno for him if Hypno had again a chance to attack him. If both of them use Protect at the same time, according to Alex's assessment, it should be enough to block a Psybeam from Hypno. Crobat use Toxic first to be able to permanently inflict small damage on Hypno. Although the efficiency of Toxic is greatly reduced because of the level difference, it is still strong enough to be able to do good damage because of the move mastery of Toxic and the poison type of Crobat. Gardevoir and Crobat kept their distance and used ranged attacks like Dazzling Gleam and Shadow Ball to harm Hypno. The rest of Alex's Pokemon went into hand-to-hand combat and surrounded the Hypno, who showed a surprised expression after seeing that no Pokemon was sleeping even though it was looking at him as he used Hypnosis. Hypno couldn't understand what was going on, but he still showed a relatively calm expression. Because of his great level advantage, he was not afraid of 7 strong elite-level Pokemon even without Hypnosis. Although he knew that the Pokemon of humans are normally stronger than those Pokemon in the wild, it is not his first time that he has fought against Pokemon of humans. He has already won against a human that is slightly stronger than Alex's group, so that he was still sure of his victory. Hypno prepares Psybeam when he tried to avoid the various attacks from Alex's Pokemon. Scizor and Ditto, Scizor, came first with their outstanding speed before Hypno. Scizor was using X-Scissor, and while Ditto had to stand still and prepare a move. Hypno showed a surprised expression when he felt pain and he lost almost 10% of his HP. He didn't understand why this Pokemon could do him so much harm. He's already fought a Pokemon from a trainer that was at a slightly higher level than this Scizor but didn't do half as much damage. It even used an effective move too, but it still doesn't do comparable damage. Umbreon came before Hypno, who is still a bit shocked and uses Double Edge. Hypno suddenly felt a slight pain and he suddenly didn't understand what was going on. He remembers this Umbreon and how little damage it had done yesterday. Hypno did not understand why her attacks today are so much stronger than they were yesterday. The moves of the rest of Alex's Pokemon came almost right after Umbreon's hit. Rock Slide, Flamethrower, Dazzling Gleam, and Shadow Ball hit Hypno, who is slowly showing an expression of fear. Hypno loses more than 30% of his HP after this one exchange, and he slowly felt that this fight was moving in a very dangerous direction. Chapter 306. Alex saw that this Hypno lose its self-confidence and he said in a calm tone, "Be careful that he can't run away and keep attacking aggressively." Hypno tried to use Psybeam against Blaziken, but Bastiodon caught the attack and blocked it with his body and with the move Protect. The rest of Alex's Pokemon used the chance to do more damage to Hypno and added more and more wounds to Hypno's body. Gardevoir said telepathically, "Father, a large number of elite-level Pokemon are coming our way." Alex said nothing for a second as he observed Hypno's condition. Although he is not sure how much HP exactly this Hypno still had, he had the feeling that it had already lost more than half and could not last long. Alex gave his Pokemon telepathically to keep attacking and quickly end the fight. Although this situation is extremely advantageous for Alex's group, Alex knew that a lot had to do with the fact that this Hypno's great strengths were counted by Alex. A Pokemon with a 5-level advantage is normally not that defenseless even against a full-buffed and organized group of Pokemon. Alex has also often fought Pokemon in the mountains with a similar level advantage as this Hypno. Those fights were difficult and persisted much longer than this fight, even if Alex's group was relatively indisputable to secure victory in the end against these Pokemon. In comparison, the fight against Hypno is extremely easy and his Pokemon could even fight extremely aggressively against this enemy. Alex knew, however, that this Hypno was not weaker than the Pokemon on the mountain and that it would be considered to be much stronger to most trainers or Pokemon. That Alex almost lost his life the first time he met Hypno proves that enough. The reason why this fight is so easy is that Alex prevented Hypno to use his strongest moves against his Pokemon and not because Hypno is weak. A wild Pokemon at this level almost always has a Master Rank move which is the most powerful weapon of that Pokemon. Hypno, who lost this weapon, couldn't do enough damage to force Alex's group into a cautious fighting style, which resulted in him getting this passive beating. Alex looked cold as Hypno accumulates more and more wounds on his body and he thought, I would like to know what such a strong Pokemon is looking for in this area or what it had done here so that so many elite-level Arbok appeared here. Hypno's life energy was completely exhausted and only the fear of death prevented him from falling unconscious on the ground. He knew that if he fell unconscious on the floor he would be killed. He tried several times to run away but almost every Pokemon from Alex, except Umbreon, was faster than him and blocked him with their body or with moves. Hypno doesn't understand why almost all of these Pokemon are so ridiculously fast. He can accept that a Crobat is faster than he is, but why is this heavy Bastiodon faster than him? He lived a long time and had met many Pokemon and humans, but this is the first time that he was so confused. Ditto used acrobatics and hit Hypno, who got many extremely deep wounds all over his body, with it. His whole body was covered with wounds and the amount of blood that this Hypno had already lost was not small. Hypno felt so tired and although he was struggling to stay awake he couldn't help but fall unconscious to the ground. He is lying on the ground, unconscious, and he was on the verge of death. Umbreon didn't show a happy expression after defeating Hypno and she used the move she was preparing directly on the senseless Hypno. She rammed Hypno's head with a double edge and crushed his head like a hammer would against a watermelon. Alex saw the contents of Hypno's head and even though it didn't look exactly like a human, it was similar enough that Alex was a bit perturbed by it. He stopped looking at Hypno's body when he saw all of his Pokemon looking in one direction. Alex also looked in this direction and he saw how many Arbok were running quickly in their direction. He showed a calm expression and looked at the information from the opponent after he noticed that none of these Arbok were on a level that is extreme dangerous for his group. Pokemon, Arbok. LV, 50. Type, Poison. Ability, Intimidate. Gender, Female. Potential, Shallow Gold. Pokemon, Arbok. LV, 45. Type, Poison. Ability, Intimidate. Gender, Female. Potential, Shallow Gold. Pokemon, Arbok. LV, 44. Type, Poison. Ability, Intimidate. Gender, Male. Potential, Shallow Gold. Alex saw the information from all 14 Arbok and he noticed many interesting things. Only one Arbok was at level 50 and the rest was between level 40 and 45. Also, the potential of 3 Arbok was shallow gold and the rest had a deep silver potential. Alex, who saw this weird group, in terms of potential or even level, had a guess why that is the case. He was sure that almost all of these Arbok are the children of the female Arbok at level 50. That showed why there is such a big difference in level from one Arbok and the rest, and why almost all of the Arbok precisely have the same move. But Alex also noticed that the children of Arbok all had exactly the same innate talent moves as their mother and not, as usual, a mix of mother and father innate talent moves. Alex knew that there was only one explanation why these Arbok only inherited moves from their mother. The father had moves as innate talent moves that an Arbok cannot use or learn so that in the end only the move could be inherited from their mother. Alex, who understood all of this, had also a guess who the father of this Arbok is. He looked at the dead Hypno and the female Arbok at level 50. Chapter 307, Alex understood now why so many elite level Arbok have appeared in these woods lately. Both Hypno and the female Arbok have very good potential, and even if these two probably do have not a born shallow gold potential, both should at least be born with a deep silver potential. For Pokemon in the wilderness without the support of an evolution, it is very difficult to improve your potential twice when the born potential is very good from the start. For a wild Pokemon born with a shallow bronze potential, it is not impossible to achieve a shallow silver potential when enough Pokemon with better potential have been eaten. But for Pokemon that are born with an A-rank potential, it is almost impossible to eat so many talented Pokemon in the wilderness. Especially because a Pokemon after it has consumed its first item will be less able to process the next item in its body than it has with the first item. Wild Pokemon often eat a lot and do not pay attention to the quality, so that it is rare that a Pokemon in the wilderness with a high born potential improve its potential without the assistance of an evolution. Alex was sure that the two, Hypno and the female Arbok, were both born with a deep silver potential. Because of their amazing talent, almost all of the two children have a shallow silver or a silver potential. Only a few children of the two will be born with a deep silver potential, but because of the high birth rate of Arbok species, it allowed them to both create a few children with a deep silver potential in a relatively short time. Alex, who saw the high potential of this elite group, suddenly had the feeling that he understood why Hypno was popular in this area. Alex can imagine how many children these two have to produce such a large group of talented children. He wanted to build an army full of A-rank Pokemon. As he thought about it, Alex realized more and more how probable his theory is. Pokemon species with a high average potential always have extremely bad birth rates and have more difficulties making children than other Pokemon. Especially Dragon-type Pokemon species have a lot of problems with making children. Even with daily activities of two Dragon-type Pokemon, it can take several years for the female dragon to become pregnant. Many Psychic-type Pokemon species have similar problems, even if less harsh. But because Hypno creates children with a Pokemon species with a relatively fast birth rate and a very good born potential, he can produce many A-rank Pokemon without having to wait long. Alex also had little knowledge of which Pokemon can make with which Pokemon species children. He only has a bit of general knowledge, but he quickly learned that it is different in this world than it was in the games. Alex didn't know exactly which Pokemon can create an egg with which in the games, but he knew that Wylord can make an egg with Skitty in the games. When he saw that something like that wasn't possible in this world, and Alex knew that this explicit knowledge of games was impractical in this world. Alex's group and the group of Arboks only looked at each other for several seconds without using one move against each other. The level 50 Arbok was looking at the Hypno's corpse, which had many wounds on his body and most of his head was spread out on the ground. She didn't show any expression of sadness, but even an indifferent expression when she looked at the Pokemon with which she had so many children together. Without looking further at her life partner, she started to look at Alex's Pokemon to assess his strength. At the same time, Alex gave his Pokemon telepathic instructions. He's not starting an attack yet because this large number of Arboks was not only strong but because he had heard from Gardevoir that a human with many strong Pokemon was coming in this direction. Alex, who felt that the situation was getting more dangerous and dangerous for him and his Pokemon after every past second, made a decision without wasting any more time. He said telepathically, "Gardevoir, prepare teleport." For Alex, this situation just had too many unmanageable factors appearing one after the other, so that he didn't want to wait for this trainer to then decide what to do. From Gardevoir's description, the energy of the 6 Pokemon from this trainer was no weaker than that of Alex's group and even a bit higher. Together with the group of Arboks, the number of strong Pokemon was too high in Alex's opinion to continue to wait and to observe this situation. In addition, he has already completed the mission so that he has no reason to stay here any longer. After Hypno is dead, the other elite Pokemon should now be able to fight better against this large group of Arboks. Apart from the fact that the female Arbok probably won't find another partner with similarly good potential. Alex teleports away and appeared in a quiet spot on the edge of the Vermilion Forest. From this place, Gardevoir had enough time to prepare another teleport that will now bring the group back to Pewter Gym. Although this mission was much more dangerous than he thought, Alex had earned 3 million TR points after a few days and he found a new family member, so he was still relatively happy. But he knew that this mission was not created under normal conditions and he will not find such worthwhile rewards for normal missions. Chapter 308, 5 days later, in Pewter City. Alex, flying on Crobat, got on the ground as soon as Crobat landed with a faint grin on his face, indicating how successful the last 5 days were. He bought 348 Pokemon during this time and sold most of them on the same day. These 5 days were pretty exhausting for Alex, who never had time to sleep for a long time or do other things. He looked at more than 5,000 Pokemon's info. Although this process was very tedious, it was never uninteresting for Alex. Any Pokemon could be a big win, so Alex was never really bored. He didn't sell all Pokemon right away but kept specific Pokemon for the time. Alex had already collected enough A-rank Pokemon from these 5 species to meet the minimum requirements of his second mission, but that wasn't enough for Alex. He not only wanted to collect 10 A-rank Pokemon of these 5 Pokemon species but as many as possible to take advantage of this good price per A-rank Pokemon in the mission. To get 100 A-rank Pokemon from 5 species, Rattata, Spearow, Zubat, Koffing, Ekans, he visited every relevant black market in all of Kanto. Not only did he visit the black markets of the big cities of Kanto, but he was also going to the black markets of relatively small cities for the first time. But even after that 5 days, Alex only found 54 A-rank Pokemon that met the mission requirements. That the mission only accepts A-rank Pokemon who are below level 20 and are one of the 5 Team Rocket main Pokemon species, Rattata, Spearow, Zubat, Koffing, Ekans. The biggest problem wasn't necessarily finding Pokemon with these 5 species, but that these Pokemon have to be below level 20. In Kanto, most of the Pokemon that are only sold come from Kanto, and more than 60% of the Pokemon in the black market are Pokemon species from the Kanto region. So it wasn't that difficult to find Pokemon of this species on the black market. Particularly if consider that none of these Pokemon species are rare. But together with the level cap, the number of Pokemon he can find for the mission has been severely limited. Alex still earns a lot of money in the last 5 days. 9,100,000 TR points could be generated from the mission alone, and together with the other A-rank Pokemon Alex had sold in the black market, Alex had earned around 26 million TR points / Pokedollar in just 5 days. Although Alex had to pay around 6 million TR points / Pokedollar for buying Pokemon from the black markets and for repeatedly using the potential machine, that was, in Alex's opinion, a bearable sum if he thought about his win. About 20 million TR points / Pokedollar was still a win that Alex was extremely happy with. Alex now had more than 85 million TR points / Pokedollars available, but even that large sum didn't feel very big for Alex. Especially when he remembers how much money he has to burn to get Bastiodon on the Shallow Diamond. Alex, who wants to get his 3 starter Pokemon at this potential as well, knew that 100 million TR points / Pokedollar per Pokemon is the absolute minimum. He wasn't even sure if 100 million is enough to get a Born Deep Silver Pokemon with Deep Gold potential to Shallow Diamond. Because even Bastiodon himself needed plus 50 million TR points / Pokedollar, and he has a Born Shallow Gold potential. The more he wanted to improve the potential of his Pokemon, the more he noted the importance of the information from Professor Walder that he had learned after the auction. The potential with which a Pokemon is born is incredibly important and often a limit for the future strength of a Pokemon. Even Alex can only try to solve the problem with money. In addition, Alex had not only received money, but he also found an S-rank Pokemon in the black market that he had bought it immediately. Pokemon, Abra. LV, 10. Attribute, Psychic. Abilities, Magic Guard, Hidden Ability. Gender, Female. Potential, Shallow Gold. Alex was very happy to find a Born Shallow Gold Pokemon, but not for himself. He plans to give Maria this Pokemon. He knew how important the capacity to teleport is in a life-threatening situation, so that he wants to give Maria this Pokemon. Especially because Maria still lacks a Psychic-type Pokemon in her team. Alex was walking the streets of Pewter City with his mask on and his Crobat beside him as Alex made his way to an entrance to the Team Rocket underground base. After 15 minutes, Alex was back in front of his room, but he didn't go in immediately because he heard a slight noise in the private training room of him and Maria. Alex walked down the hall with his Pokemon and saw Maria and a large number of Pokemon training. Maria, who had received 10 deep silver Pokemon from Alex, now had a large number of Pokemon to take care of, so that the number of Pokemon Maria has to take care of is not small. But Alex is careful not to give Maria Pokemon that takes a long time to evolve so that he doesn't think that Maria has to train these Pokemon for more than half a month before all of them reach the S rank. Maria saw Alex come and went to Alex with a dissatisfied expression. She looked at Alex with her cold eyes. "I hate the mission you gave me. It's really tough to take care of so many Pokemon at the same time." Alex rolled his eyes as he said, "You only get 50 million Poke Dollars. Yeah, what an awful job. That's if these Pokemon really hit the S rank after their evolution. I don't think we're that lucky." Alex smiled when he said, "Don't you trust your lover?" Maria looked at Alex's smile and showed an expression of disgust. "Did I not tell you that you don't look good when you smile?" Alex's good mood immediately got worse even when he knew why Maria was so bitchy to him. He had hardly sent her a message the whole week and the two spent almost no time together. Usually, even when both are separated, they talk to each other at least a little bit every day via the TRH device, but this week it was very short or not the case at all every day. That was because Alex had almost no time in the last week and preferred to use this time for his sleep. "Don't be angry. I even brought a present for you." Alex wanted to joke but changed his strategy in the middle of his sentence after seeing Maria's gaze. Maria just looked at Alex with an emotionless expression without changing her face. But Alex, who had spent a lot of time with Maria, knew that Maria is not really angry and just pretends to be. Alex gave Maria a Pokeball and said smiling, "I found an S-rank Abra for you. Not bad, right?" Maria wasn't looking at the Pokeball but only looked at Alex when she said seriously, "What did I tell you about smiling?" Alex, who had not expected such an answer, showed a speechless expression. Maria stopped showing a serious expression and started to laugh slightly as she looked at Alex's face. After she saw that Alex was slightly annoyed, she walked in front of him and hugged him. At the same time, she whispered the words, "You can take revenge tonight," to improve Alex's mood. Chapter 309, Alex spent almost all of his time training his team in order to prepare for the Kanto Champion Tournament. During these 3 months, he was together with his Pokemon several times for a week or two in the mountains to get a good ratio between wildness training and normal training. After these hard and exhausting 3 months, Alex was very satisfied with the results. All of his Pokemon have become many times stronger and even some improved their potential. Vulpix had reached level 40 and had learned the move, Sheer Cold, had then been allowed by Alex to evolve to a Ninetales. He gave her the top Ice Stone he had kept for so long and let her evolve into an Alolan Ninetales. At the same time, she improved her potential and became Alex's 5 Pokemon with a shallow diamond potential. But Ninetales wasn't the only Pokemon in Alex's group that had evolved. Horsea became a Seadra in these 3 months and multiple times improved its potential. Alex buys and gave Horsea good items before the evolution to get it to a gold potential before it evolves. At the same time, he keeps a very good item in case Horsea evolves. After 3 months, Horsea with a shallow gold potential became a Seadra with a deep gold potential. But Alex also tried to improve the potential of 4 different Pokemon with many items. For Crobat, Gardevoir, Scizor, and Ditto, Alex uses a lot of money to improve the potential of these Pokemon. Especially for Ditto, Alex didn't save any money to bring him to the gold rank. He has bought more and more items for Ditto, but only after spending 35 million Poke Dollars on Ditto was he able to improve Ditto's potential. Although it was very expensive, Alex felt it was worth it. Ditto managed to get 2 level ups in 3 months and his level up speed was now just a little slower than the other Pokemon. For Crobat, Gardevoir, Scizor together, Alex bought items worth around 90 million Poke Dollars to start bringing these 3 up to the shallow diamond potential. He knew that he would need more money if he wanted his 3-starter Pokemon to reach this potential, but he didn't have the money to spend 300 million on just the 3 or even 300 million Poke Dollars. Alex has already spent a lot of money on Pokemon food, and he's also spent a lot on TMs these months. Together with the necessary items for his new Pokemon, Alex could not collect enough money. Although Maria gave him 10 S-rank Pokemon after 1 month and he had sold these to Team Rocket for 130 million Poke Dollars, is this amount of money not just for himself anticipate? According to the agreement, Maria receives 50 million Poke Dollars and Alex also needs to deduct the money for these 10 Pokemon and the 10 good items so that they could reach the S-rank relatively safely during their evolution. Alex's earnings were still very good with about 60 million Poke Dollars. Especially when he considered that he hardly spent any time on it. This method of making money was very rewarding and Alex would like to continue using it, but there are several major risks involved with this method of making money. The more frequently he earns incredible money with it, the more eyes will be on him. S-rank Pokemon are very valuable, but they have one major disadvantage compared to A-rank Pokemon. Nobody buys an S-rank Pokemon without having a good relationship with the seller and being able to give the Pokemon back to them when the Pokemon had character problems. Nobody buys a Pokemon for several million without having any certainty that this Pokemon has no problems. It is not enough to just confirm the potential with the potential machine. Only if the seller and the buyer know each other relatively well will such a transaction be possible. Trust is very important for this art of expensive transaction. Apart from the dangers when people in Team Rocket find out how much money he earned with S-rank Pokemon, Alex had weakened this risk by indicating to Team Rocket that he had bought A-rank 35 Pokemon and got these 10 for an S-rank after 1 month so that many will think that his profit is not high and don't try to do something harmful to Alex. But even with this lie, Alex knew that the huge amount of money had attracted a few eyes from Team Rocket. Alex knew that his strength is not bad, but he did not plan to try to earn more money with this process again. It was too risky for his taste. Apart from the fact that he had a better plan. His plan was to earn money with this method when he had his own base in Hoenn and then had several better ways to sell these S-rank Pokemon. Although Alex had more than 145 million Poke Dollars in his possession for a moment, his expenses in those 3 months were ridiculously high, so that Alex only had about 7 million Poke Dollars left after all the expenses. Alex, who started to see 7 million Poke Dollars as little money, suddenly felt that he was starting to think more and more like Steven about money. Chapter 310. After Alex finished his daily meditation, he watched his Pokemon train like always. As he looked at the infos of each of his Pokemon again, as he did every day, he began to think about something. What is the problem? Ditto should already have been training, transform, for about 1 year, but the move still shows no indications of reaching the master rank. Ditto had hardly wasted any time this year, as Alex Pokemon, and trained a lot on the move, transform. Alex also regularly tried other mini training practices in order to improve the training effectively. But the move, transform, is still on the expert rank. Alex knew that getting an innate talent move from an S-rank Pokemon from expert rank to the master rank takes about 2 months with a regular move. Only difficult to learn moves, like Explosion, would take longer. But even Explosion, with the right training approach, shouldn't take more than 3 to 4 months. Alex knew for a long time that the move, transform, was extremely difficult to train, but he didn't think it was that much harder than other moves. He suddenly understood why Ditto is so unpopular as a fighting Pokemon and why only a few trainers have a Ditto with an transform on the master rank. It's not easy to achieve and harder to train than to train multiple moves on the master rank. If Ditto, with a very good potential, already takes so long to get his transform on the master rank and still hasn't been successful, Alex doesn't have to guess how long other Ditto's trainers feel. Alex has already bought a lot of information about the exercise for the move, transform, for a lot of money. But unfortunately, these training practices were very similar to Ditto's currently and nothing special or new for Alex. Alex was sure that there wasn't a trick to train this move much faster, or if there was a trick, only a few people knew about it. When he remembered that he had Ditto for about a year, it occurred to him that he had been a trainer for more than 1 year and how much he had changed. Now that I think about it, I've been a trainer for more than 1 year. Time goes by really fast, Alex thought to me with a smile. From a rookie to an elite-level trainer with several level 50 Pokemon is absolutely phenomenal and can hardly be reached by other trainers. Such a ridiculous level-up speed for Alex is only possible through the use of vast amounts of money, the perfect assessment of potential, and tireless training in the wildness and normal training practices. Even Steven didn't level up that fast in his early trainer's years. Although the main reason is that he hardly ever spent time with Pokemon training and rarely went out into the wild in his early years. Now that Steven is a full-time trainer, his level-up speed is similar to Alex's and in the future probably better, because his Pokemon have a slightly better potential, now. As Alex was thinking about Steven, he saw that Steven has sent him a message. Hey Alex, I now have a full team of SS-rank Pokemon. Although you don't understand how it feels like, I can tell you it's really a great feeling. Alex, who only had 5 Shallow Diamond Pokemon in his team, couldn't quite oppose Steven's 5 Shallow Diamond Pokemon and a monster Metagross with Diamond potential. Although Alex wasn't angry, he still accepted the chance to make fun of Steven. Yes, that makes your sad single life more bearable, maybe. Steven responds almost immediately. Haven't I already explained to you why I don't have a girlfriend? Alex answered without hesitation. Must I care what lies do you think up? Steven did not write anything for a few seconds before writing a new message to Alex. Be glad that I can't take part in the Kanto Champion Tournament or you would regret these words. Alex smiled slightly as he wrote. Wow. I didn't think that would annoy you so much. If that pisses you off, just look for a girlfriend. And I would beat you. Even with your Metagross. Steven ignores the first sentence and focuses on the second. Is that so? How about a rematch after the tournament? Alex smiled when he thought that Steven wanted to start a rematch after he showed all his strength and tactics in the tournament. Although he knew that the rematch has to wait. The Kanto Champion Tournament would start in 3 days and that the registrations will start today, so it makes sense that the rematch can only take place after the tournament. Alex and Steven are very far apart and can't just meet in a few hours for a rematch. Alex believed that he could surprise Steven a bit about how strong he has become. Let's do it after the tournament. Steven looked at the message from Alex and he becomes slightly enthusiastic. He felt that it would be a very good challenge for him after realizing Alex's confident attitude. I'm already looking forward to it. In the Saffronia Arena, were many trainers and reports at the entrance so that Alex, who saw this spot from afar, was really impressed by the many cameras and reporters. Alex has never seen so many reporters and cameras in one place, and that although the tournament hadn't started yet. Even in the Kanto Rookie Tournament, were fewer reporters and cameras. Many reporters interview multiple various well-known trainers and Alex even recognized a few of them. Although these trainers are not as well known as gym leaders, their strengths could not be underestimated and for many, they are still relatively famous. Similar to Alex's stardom. When Alex made his way towards the entrance of the Saffronia Arena, he was recognized by a couple of reporters and they wanted to ask him for a short interview, but Alex refused with the comment afterwards directly. Although the reports all showed a dissatisfied expression, they didn't want to lose their chance to get an interview after Alex registered, so they did not say much or block Alex's way. Alex entered the entrance lobby of the Saffronia Arena and saw immediately where he has to register. It was hard to miss with a few trainers waiting there and several members of the staff to keep things quiet. There were only a few trainers in front of Alex so that he hardly had to wait long before it was his turn. Chapter 311. After 15 minutes, it was Alex's turn to move in front of the registration place. A beautiful woman around 20 years old looked at Alex and said with a smile, "Hello sir, can you please give me your ID card?" As in the Kanto Rookie Tournament, only Alliance trainers are allowed to take part in this tournament. Although Alex thinks rather badly about this rule, he doesn't say anything and gives this woman his ID card. The beautiful woman put the card on the scanner for a second before handing it back to Alex. The beautiful woman saw the name on the ID and took another look at Alex with a seductive smile as she gave him the ID card back. Simultaneously, she touched Alex's hand so that it seemed very accidentally as she gave him his ID card. She gave a small smile and tried not to let the emotion in her eyes betray what she was thinking. But Alex saw this look so often that he recognized it almost immediately. He knew that if he would now ask her for her number, that he could sleep with this woman today. But he had no interest in doing that. For Alex behaved this woman a little too much like Lisa had when he first met her. Alex wishes not to be famous anymore precisely because of such like situation. Although he knew that many women see him as the optimal prey or target and that he hardly has to do anything to sleep with these women, he sees this benefit only as a source of problems and not as something great. Alex wouldn't mind having fun for one night with such a beautiful woman, but now that he had Maria, he wouldn't consider it anymore. When he was hungry, no one gave him a steak, but now that he is already full, he is offered high-quality steaks all the time. Alex looked at the woman but continued to show an indifferent expression to make her understand that he is not interested. After the beautiful woman had seen Alex's expression, she showed a slightly disappointing expression that would awaken the protective instinct of many men. Alex just continued to look indifferently at the woman. He hopes that the woman can just stop. After a few seconds, the beautiful woman showed a professional smile again. She asked Alex, "Do you want a normal registration or the seed spot registration?" Very identical to the Kanto Rookie Tournament in which Alex participated, there were two different registration options. With normal registration, you can take part in the tournament as long as you have fulfilled the minimum number of gym bags, 3 different options. For the seed spot registration, you have to meet all the requirements of the normal registration and you have to have a team that exceeds a certain average level. Interestingly, there is no additional requirement where, as in the Kanto Rookie Tournament, you have to pay money to become a seed participant. Although these requirements seem so easy to meet, they are not. First, the gym badges. Even the B-rank gym badges and A-rank badges are not easy to obtain and that many elite trainers have problems with them. Also, Alex knew that this level requirement could not be met for most of the participants that have achieved the previous requirement. Her 6 Pokemon must have an average level of 47.5 or must have 3 Pokemon above level 49. Most elite level trainers don't even have even one mid-elite, level 50 to 54, Pokemon. Not to mention 3 mid-elite level Pokemon. The first option is also not much easier for most trainers. Having 3 level 47 and 3 level 48 is by no means easier. Even Alex couldn't fulfill this high requirement 3 months ago. But the trainers who register this way have a great advantage. Alex himself knew how important it is to register as a seed participant if they don't want to fight against strong participants in the preliminary rounds. Seed participants will not fight against other seed participants in the preliminary round, and because almost all the strong participants are seed participants, the seed participants won't have to worry about 2 strong opponents in the preliminary rounds. Alex said, "I want to register for the seed place." The woman beautiful looked at Alex and said with a smile, "Okay. Please put your 6 Pokemon that are going to participate in the tournament on this machine. Please keep in mind that you cannot change them after registration, so choose carefully." Alex, who had already decided for his team, put 6 Pokeballs on this device. He only had 7 Pokemon, which were a realistic option and did not have a huge level disadvantage compared to the rest. In the end, Alex chooses Crobat, Scizor, Gardevoir, Blaziken, Bastiodon, and Umbreon as his team. Unfortunately, Ditto was the Pokemon that Alex had ruled out. As long as Ditto doesn't have Transform on the Master rank, he will not be strong enough in a 1 vs 1 tournament compared to Alex's other 6 Pokemon. Alex put the 6 Pokeballs on a similar-looking machine to the one in the Kanto Rookie Tournament. The beautiful woman looked on the screen with Alex's Pokemon data and said with a smile, all right, your 6 Pokemon's average level is at 49.66. You are entitled to get a seed place. Here is your participant number. If you have any questions about the rules or the schedule of the tournament, you can visit our website for the Kanto Rookie Tournament. Alex took the participant number and noticed that this woman had also put a sheet of paper with a number on top of it. He also recognized from who the number belonged when he saw the woman smile. Ah, can't she give up, and when did she do that? She didn't have time to write down a number, and I didn't see that she had done anything else. Don't tell me that she had prepared for such an occasion. Alex, who doesn't want to waste any more time, took both things and left the building. After leaving the building, he immediately threw the number in the trash. Chapter 312. Several reporters with cameras and other equipment saw Alex leaving the building and began to head in his direction. Alex only recognized one person from all reporters, and he knew that the person he recognized was also the reporter with the greatest fame in Kanto. It was a female reporter with beautiful black hair and a tall height for a woman. On the whole, she looked very much like a model with a very special charisma. A bit like a queen without an arrogant demeanor. She was also the only reporter he knew by name. Even if it's just her first name. Because he often heard her name being said in programs, he knew that this female reporter was called Freya. Alex knew that this is the best-known reporter in all of Kanto and that she also works for the most popular news channel, Poke News. Freya is also not just a reporter but mostly a host of many programs on Poke News. She only came here as a reporter because the Kanto Champion Tournament is the biggest event in all of Kanto. She was very well known and many times more notable than small celebrities like Alex himself. Freya did not go in front of Alex immediately but watched him when she thought about whether an interview with him was worthwhile. The other reporters started pacing in front of Alex and asking many questions with no sign of civility. Are you taking part in this tournament? Alex, what rank do you think you will achieve in this tournament? Have you heard words from future gym leader, Misty? She said she'd beat you easily this time. What do you think of that? Alex, do you think you have a chance to win this tournament? Do you think that your victory last time was only possible through luck? Alex tried not to show an annoyed expression when all reports started recording without asking and asked questions directly. He gave a fake smile as he said, Shrey, I don't have a lot of time to answer all of your questions, so I'll keep it short. Yes, I will take part in this tournament, and no, I don't think I can create a miracle like last time and win this tournament. Alex then looked at the reporters blocking his path and he waited for them to give him a freeway. But when none of the reporters left and started asking more questions, he got a bit annoyed. Alex continued to smile, but he said telepathically to Crobat, scare this trash for me. Crobat immediately left his pokeball and started looking at the reporters with a bloodthirsty aura around him. The reporters were very surprised by this sudden change and they all stepped back a bit. Every reporter kept their distance from this Crobat that looked like it would attack them if they moved one more step forward. Alex showed a fake expression of surprise. He then said to surprised reporters, I'm sorry that my Pokemon scared you. Crobat is very protective when strangers come too close. After that, he said a few polite words and say goodbye without giving them a chance to stop him again. Alex immediately called Gardevoir and had himself teleport in front of his hotel to get rid of the annoying reporters. He knew that each of these reporters only had a small range and that most of them didn't even report beyond a city level. While it's not bad, it is not enough to have a major impact on Alex's reputation as long as Alex doesn't do anything special. Alex, who was in the best and most expensive hotel in all of Saffron City, started to read the rules of the tournament when his Pokemon were practicing their moves. Many of the rules in this tournament were very similar to the Kanto Rookie Tournament and there were hardly any differences in the rulebook. Chapter 79. For Alex, the anomaly was that now not every Pokemon can be changed once per battle, but each trainer can only change 3 times in the entire fight. In addition, the formats in this tournament are also different than in the Kanto Rookie Tournament. In the preliminary round, the participants will fight 1v/S1. When there are only 64 participants left, 3v/S3 fights will be used as the format. The format 6v/S6 will be used for the round of the top 16. Alex looked at his participant number and he saw that he had got the participant number 69. Like a Kanto Rookie Tournament, this number is only for the preliminary round and is not ranked according to the strength of the trainers. Only when the preliminary round is over will each participant receive a number that is ranked according to the level of their team. Alex, who saw this number, couldn't resist sending Maria a photo with his participant number and the words, "Do you know what I'm thinking about?" Although Alex knew that it was very childish, he couldn't help it. He sometimes had fun with the simple things in life. But Alex's mood quickly got worse when he saw Maria respond with the words, "You are sometimes really cute." Alex would rather hear insults from Maria than being described with such words. He wasn't really upset, but it annoyed him more than it should. The worst part was that he wasn't sure if Maria knew this or if it was just a coincidence. Alex even hoped Maria just wants to tease him and doesn't honestly think something like that. He stopped thinking about it and started meditating again. Several hours later, the registration for the Kanto Champion Tournament was completed and each participant received the information about their first opponent. By the way, this is not the first time that we see Freya in the story, even if it is the first time that we get to know her name. Maybe a few of you can guess when we saw her for the first time. Chapter 313. Usually, only between 200 and 300 trainers take part in the Kanto Champion Tournament each year, which makes the participants' number even smaller than of the Kanto Rookie Tournament. Alex knew, however, that the main reason for this small number is not the unpopularity but that the requirement for this tournament is too high for most trainers. Only a small percentage of all active trainers are elite-level trainers and the general number of elite-level trainers is moderately small. Several thousand elite-level trainers are not a large number when one considers that Kanto has a population of more than 10 million residents. Apart from the fact that participants also need a better strength than a normal elite-level trainer to be able to collect 2 A-rank gym badges. Although only half as many trainers take part in the Kanto Champion Tournament than in the Kanto Rookie Tournament, is even the trash in this tournament stronger than most of the champions from the Kanto Rookie Tournament. Only the absolute elite are allowed to take part in this tournament. Alex looked at the number of participants and saw that only 212 participants were taking part in this tournament. That means that there will only be 2 preliminary rounds and that even a few lucky participants only need to have 1 fight in the preliminary rounds. He went to the tournament tree to see who he has to fight tomorrow. Contestant number 199. Pokemon. Charizard LV46, Magmar LV44, Ninetales LV42, Pidgeot LV40, Rapidash LV39, Flareon 39. Alex saw that his first opponent wasn't really strong and he showed a slightly disappointing expression. Although 4 elite-level Pokemon, where one of them at level 46, can be described as very strong for most people, it is in this tournament only trash that cannot survive the preliminary rounds. None of Alex's Pokemon would have problems winning against even the strongest of this opponent's Pokemon. Even Bastiodon with his Rock Slide on the expert rank and his 3-level advantage would win easily. As Alex thought about it, he noticed how his Pokemon were done with their daily training and that they started doing other things. Especially Ditto, who started playing the most chess of all Pokemon, started walking towards Gardevoir. Ditto got better at chess and was now so good that he was the 3rd best chess player in the group. Only Alex and Gardevoir were better than him. He often challenged the 2 of them, but never managed to defeat either of them. But he never gave up and kept almost every day trying. That was one of the reasons why Ditto went from the worst chess player in Alex's group to the 3rd best. Alex also believed that after a few months Ditto would even play better than him. Although he saw no hope that Ditto could beat Gardevoir. Alex still remembers how he lost to Gardevoir even though she learned this game on the same day. She is in a completely different league. Alex watched as Ditto played tirelessly against Gardevoir and showed no signs of giving up in these one-sided games either. After everyone had spent a bit of time with their hobby, Alex and his Pokemon started to go to sleep. Saffron City Arena. Alex sat in the waiting room for the participants for the C block and waited for his turn. After 10 minutes, Alex saw his number on the screen. He went in the direction of the C block section in the arena with his participant number and ID card. As he entered the arena, he saw several trainers fighting in different blocks. Saffron City Arena was a massive arena encircled by countless spectator seats. It was very similar to the arena in the Kanto Rookie Tournament and mainly differed in being much larger. But it feels very different to Alex. He couldn't quite explain it, but this arena felt special. Maybe because the most important event in all of Kanto takes place here or because of the enormous size, but Alex was very impressed when he looked around. Although the spectator seats are empty because the tournament has not yet started, this arena was really spectacular. Alex went to the C block and he immediately saw the C block referee standing there. He showed his number and ID card to the referee and waited together with the referee for his opponent. After only 2 minutes, a relatively young man came in front of Alex and the referee with the participant number, 199. Alex looked at the man and saw nothing special except that the man looked like he was around 25 years old. This young man also seemed to know the strength of Alex's Pokemon and showed a serious expression the whole time. He knew that he didn't have a big chance, but he came anyway because the difference between 3 levels or 4 levels is not impossible to beat if the fight runs optimally. Also, even if he doesn't win, his Pokemon can gain valuable experience. The referee made a hand gesture to indicate that both participants should call out their Pokemon. Alex took a Pokeball and the young man did the same thing. Bastiodon and Charizard appeared in the arena at the same time. Pokemon, Charizard. LV, 46. Type, Fire/Flying. Abilities, Blaze. Gender, Male. Potential, Shallow Gold. Alex noticed immediately that this trainer values more, that his Pokemon can do 1 or 2 moves exceptionally well, than that his Pokemon can do several different moves well. He didn't think it was wrong, but in this fight, it made Charizard's chance of victory worse. Both of Charizard's 2 Master Rank moves against Bastiodon are ineffective, and that makes that both moves do less damage than Flamethrower on the Expert rank. That means that Charizard does not have flexibility, mini, moves, or the specific power that he should have against Bastiodon. 3, 2, 1, go! Chapter 314. After Bastiodon took just a little damage and used a few moves, Alex claimed his first win easily. Alex had already thought that this fight would be effortless, but he still underestimated how uncomplicated this fight was. Bastiodon does not only do a lot of damage with a Rock Slide, but also hardly gets any damage itself from the moves of Charizard. 3-level disadvantage plus Rock Slide on the Expert rank was just too much for Charizard. The referee shouted, "Participant 199 Pokemon passed out. Participant 69 won this round." Alex calls Bastiodon back to his Pokeball after hearing that the referee confirms his victory. The referee looked at Alex and said seriously, "Participant 69, you will be informed of your next opponent within 3 hours. Please be ready for tomorrow." Alex nodded and started exiting the arena after shaking hands with his opponent. He made her on the way back to his hotel. 2 hours later, when Alex finished his daily meditation, he pulled out his TRH device again to see if he had been assigned a new opponent on the tournament tree. Contestant number 47. Pokemon. Flygon LV 51, Steelix LV 49, Quagsire LV 47, Nidoqueen LV 45, Camerupt LV 45, Gardevoir 41. Alex, who saw this information from his opponent, wasn't sure for a moment whether he will have to fight one of the strongest non-seed participants or as if his opponent is nothing special in this tournament and his first enemy was very weak. This participant not only had 2 Pokemon at a similar level to his Pokemon, but one of these Pokemon was 1 level higher than each of Alex's Pokemon. As a seed participant, Alex had a level disadvantage in a 1 versus 1 match. Also, this level 51 Pokemon was not of a weak species and a Pokemon of a Dragon-type species. Alex felt almost as if he had hit a wall. Alex didn't think that in the preliminary round he would feel the danger of leaving the tournament, but after seeing this opponent, he could only laugh at his previous thoughts. "I thought it was a trick to hype the tournament, but the Kanto Champion Tournament really doesn't allow any weak players on the main event. Even the seed participants are not necessarily safe in the previous round. What an interesting tournament." He looked at his Pokemon and almost immediately decided which Pokemon to choose for tomorrow. Fortunately, he had nearly that perfect Pokemon for tomorrow. Saffron City Arena. Alex is 1 day later again in this big arena, but this time with a serious expression and not with a relaxed expression like last time. Alex believes that with his numerous plans which he can adjust according to many situations, he would have a good chance to win this fight, even if he feels a bit of uncertainty because he hadn't seen the info from the Flygon. He couldn't plan his tactics perfectly in advance and therefore can't use the most out of his strength. One of the main reasons why Alex had such powerful and effective tactics against Misty and Junichi is because he knew all the information about the Pokemon of the two before his fight. Alex had enough time to build a perfect adapted plan that can react perfectly to most responses from his opponents. But not even without the best of his strength, Alex was confident that he would find a way to turn this fight into his own direction. He also had a lot of fights without planning time so that he can still use tactics effectively without enough time, even if not so perfectly with enough time. After Alex saw his number on the screen in the waiting room, he started to move to the arena and to go back to the C block where his opponent and the referee were waiting for him. Alex looked at his opponent and he showed a surprised expression when he saw a man who looked like he was over 45 years old. This man had already started to lose hair and, together with his face, made this man look like he was in his mid-40s. And that's a friendly estimate. Alex looked up at the referee with a perplexed expression. The referee immediately understood Alex's confused expression. Participant 47 is under 40 and he is allowed to take part in this tournament. Don't worry, we have already checked it thoroughly. The old-looking man showed an annoyed expression when he heard this. He said, "Yes, and you all even called a doctor with a machine because you thought I had faked my ID card. That was completely unwarranted." Alex, who heard these words, looked at the man's face again and said, "Well, it can happen that one is judged to be a few years older. I mean, you are 38 or 39 years old, right? The gap is not very big." The old-looking man got angry and started yelling at Alex, "Boy, shut up if no one talks to you. You stupid bastard, I'll be 35 this year." Alex has already lowered his first assessment of that age of this man, was surprised that this man was even younger. This man didn't look like he was 34 years old to Alex. He wasn't even angry that he was insulted and yelled at. Alex even showed an expression of sympathy as he looked at the man. This old-looking man already had a below-average appearance, and that he also looked 10 years older feel just sad for Alex. "Sorry, man." The old-looking man would normally accept Alex's apology, but after seeing Alex's eyes full of pity, he felt a wave of indescribable anger. He thought with a cold expression, "We'll see if you'll still give me that look after the fight, boy." Chapter 315. Alex knew that his opponent only had two real options that he could send in this 1-versus-1 fight. Either Flygon on LV51 or Steelix on LV49. Although Flygon is 2 levels stronger than Steelix, Steelix has a type advantage against Gardevoir, so that his opponent may take Steelix because of this reason. Alex knew this, but he still chose to pick Gardevoir for this fight. Even if his opponent takes Steelix, Alex believed the Gardevoir against Steelix is still in Gardevoir's favor. Steelix had a bad SP def and a terrible speed, so the Gardevoir had a good chance even with the type disadvantage. Perhaps even a better chance than against Flygon. In addition, she was a level higher than Steelix, which is not trivial on the elite levels. It is still a small advantage even if it is only 1 level. The referee made a hand gesture to indicate that both participants should call out their Pokemon. Gardevoir and Flygon both left their Pokeballs at the same time. Pokemon, Flygon. LV, 51. Type, Ground/Dragon. Ability, Levitate. Gender, Male. Potential, Gold. Alex looked slightly shocked when he saw 6 moves on the Master rank. This trainer had apparently taken several years to train 6 moves up to the maximum, and Alex couldn't help but praise the intelligence of this person inwardly. Alex knew that it would take an S-rank Pokemon at least 6 to 12 months to train a non-innate talent move to the Master rank. Although all trainers don't understand why there is such a big time difference between the S-rank Pokemon, Alex knew the reason. Alex was sure that Shallow Gold, Gold, Deep Gold Pokemon all have a different speed to train a move to the Master rank. Especially when he read, in an expensive book, that all S-rank Pokemon were placed into 3 categories in this book. This book describes the results of various tests with many different S-rank Pokemon. All the S-rank Pokemon were trained with the same training method and trained the same move. In the end, all Pokemon could be divided into precisely 3 groups: 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months. The book writer didn't understand why there was such a smooth separation from training time and not proportionate Pokemon with 11, 10, 8, and 7 months of training time. While Alex understood immediately the answer. Shallow Gold, 12 months. Gold, 9 months. Deep Gold, 6 months. But Alex knew that these are only the absolute best times that are only achievable with perfect training methods, food, and training time. As long as you're not ridiculously rich and training like a madman all the time, it will take you longer. Alex didn't know how long this old man had his Flygon, but he believed it should be at least a couple of years. He already thought that the fight would not be easy, but he didn't think that he would have to fight such a monster. At that moment, Alex was so happy that he had planned this fight thoroughly and that it didn't have to come up with completely new tactics. The old-looking man looked at Alex with serious expressions and gave a small smile. The referee didn't waste any time and immediately gave the signal to start the fight. 3, 2, 1, go! Sandstorm, Flygon. The old-looking man only uses one word to give his command faster. Alex didn't say anything, but Gardevoir immediately started preparing a move after the referee began the fight. Flygon finished his move shortly before Gardevoir, even if he started his move a little later. A dense and high-rise, Sandstorm, surrounded the whole arena. Flygon was one of the few Pokemon species that can see perfectly through a Sandstorm. Because of the unique eyes of the Flygon species, it is possible to see through dense sand streams without any problems. Alex couldn't see anything in the arena, but thanks to his psychic powers he still knew what was going on in this sandstorm. Neither Gardevoir's nor his vision is restricted by the sandstorm. Although Gardevoir is harmed quite a bit by the force of the sandstorm, Alex had a calm expression on his face. He didn't think it would be a long fight, so that it will not be a big problem. In the sandstorm, Gardevoir was using Reflect and was improving her defenses for some time. After that, she immediately started preparing the move, Icy Wind. Although this move is only on the normal rank, it was very useful in this fight. It's not just an ice-type move, but also a move that, after a successful hit, slowed Flygon's speed slightly down. Alex knew how important the speed of a Pokemon is against a Pokemon that Teleport can use. The slower Flygon is, the better Gardevoir can kiting him. Dragon Dance, Flygon. Alex, who heard this, continued to show a calm expression, even if the situation looked very dangerous. He felt that the fight was completely going according to his plan so far. Flygon was not only finished faster but managed to use Dragon Dance almost twice for the one time the Gardevoir used Icy Wind. But Flygon lost more than 15% of HP after getting hit by Gardevoir's Icy Wind. Gardevoir immediately started preparing Dazzling Gleam without Alex having to say a word. Because everything went according to plan, Alex didn't have to say anything and he can just watch Gardevoir execute the plan. Old-looking man felt like he had already won after his Flygon had successfully used Dragon Dance twice without taking much damage. Flygon use Fly and show this kid his place. Chapter 316. Although this position doesn't look particularly promising, Alex felt that it was a very favorable situation for Gardevoir. Primarily for his plan, it doesn't matter if Flygon is strengthened with Dragon Dance or not. Gardevoir, who first started preparing her move, finished preparing Dazzling Gleam and was using it immediately. Flygon, who was only 30 meters away and was flying high in the air, could not dodge it and was hit by this move. He showed a slight expression of pain and lost nearly 20% of his HP from that one hit. Flygon finished his move shortly after being hit and he started using it immediately. His whole body was enveloped in flying-type energy when he began to dive in the direction of Gardevoir. He achieved an incredibly fast speed that made it impossible for Gardevoir to evade it normally. Gardevoir, however, showed a calm expression and used Teleport, which she had prepared immediately after using Dazzling Gleam. She appears on the edge of the other side of the arena and Flygon completely missed its target. Alex, who kept a calm expression the whole time, felt that Flygon and his trainer are really unlucky. Gardevoir with its move, Teleport, and her fairy typing is a hard counter against Flygon. Gardevoir's Teleport is a very powerful weapon but not unbeatable. First of all, Teleport cannot be used or prepared when Gardevoir is using a move or when preparing a move. Second, even if Gardevoir teleported over the whole arena without hitting, it doesn't matter if she can't do any harm. Apart from that, the Gardevoir cannot use this Teleport indefinitely. Gardevoir must prepare a move, use it and then immediately prepare Teleport. Although Teleport takes less time to prepare than normal moves, it still takes about 1 second. If Gardevoir and the opponent are preparing a ranged move at the same time and using it at the same time, Gardevoir cannot avoid this move, unless the projectile is particularly slow, with Teleport. But even with these flaws, is this move ridiculously powerful? Especially against opponents like this Flygon. Alex was very impressed by Flygon's many powerful moves, but he immediately noticed a major weak point. Flygon didn't have a move where the target doesn't have to be very close. It didn't even have a ranged move on the expert rank. Even Earthquake, which does more damage with less distance, cannot be classified as a ranged move. Alex sees this Flygon as a nightmare in close combat, but completely defenseless in mid to long-range combat. But because Flygon can use Dragon Dance, and because his species has a very good basic speed, it is seldom the case, where he cannot force his opponent into a close combat fight. Flygon is very unlucky that he met Gardevoir. Gardevoir can completely ignore his outstanding advantages. Alex looked at the old-looking man and suddenly saw how this man changed his expression as if he could see what was happening in this sandstream. Although he couldn't sense the psychic energy of this old-looking man, Alex knew that it's not difficult to hide his psychic energy when you're not using it. Only if Alex had a much stronger psychic ability than the old-looking man could he find out whether this man has psychic abilities or not. At least as long as the man does not use psychic energy. The old-looking man said with a serious expression, "Flygon, use Roost while you're preparing Fly." Although Flygon can use 2 moves at once, Alex knew that the effectiveness of those moves is decreased when they are used at the same time. Roost heals less and takes longer to prepare. Fly does less damage and takes longer to prepare. He doesn't seem to have as much talent in direct combat as he does in training his Pokémon, thought Alex when he heard the order from his opponent. Although the command from this man is not bad, it was, according to Alex, not much better than from a regular elite-level trainer. Flygon couldn't hit Gardevoir with Fly, so it doesn't make sense to prepare for this move, and it would be even more effective if he just used Roost. Apart from the fact that it did not turn the direction of this fight. Alex wouldn't use any of these 2 tactics. If both Pokémon continue to fight in the same pattern, Flygon clearly loses. Dazzling Gleam does too much damage to be out-healed by Roost. Alex also noticed at this moment that, even at this high level, hardly any trainers have good tactics. Lieutenant Surge was the only trainer he had fought against, where Alex can say that he was very skilled in tactics. Because Alex hadn't said anything, Gardevoir continues with her Teleport and Dazzling Gleam strategy. After just 1 minute, Flygon fell unconscious after being hit by a Dazzling Gleam. The old-looking man tried many things in this fight but couldn't find a way and lost the fight, without Alex having to change his starting strategy even once. Alex showed a little smile after his victory. With this victory, his preliminary rounds are over and he is now one of the top 64 participants who will take part in the main event. The old-looking man healed his Flygon and then walked in front of Alex with a slightly kind expression. "Boy, you are too strong for me. You hardly tried hard and still beat me so easily." Alex, who hadn't expected such an honorable attitude from this grumpy-looking man, was briefly surprised. "Aw, thank you, but I gave everything for this match and prepared as much as I can with the little available information. To be honest, the matchup was very unfavorable for you." The old-looking man laughed and said, "Haha, well, it's my own fault. Although only a few Pokémon can use the move, Teleport, I should still train at least one range move to the expert rank. Alex and the old-looking man shook hands and talked for almost an hour. Alex not only learns that this man is called Ben but also exchanged his contact info with Ben. Although Alex did not have a very sociable personality, he found his conversation with Ben very pleasant and found Ben's character very likable. Chapter 317, Alex, who was still sleeping in his bed, suddenly began to notice how the sun was shining in his room. So he removed his laziness and woke up completely. As he sat on the bed for a few seconds with his half-closed eyes, he first stretched his body to remove the rigidness left due to the night's sleep. After a big yawn, he got out of the bed. Although he was still very tired, he was very excited for today. Today begins not only the main event of the Kanto Champion Tournament starts but is also the day when all participants get a new participant number according to their strength. Alex got in the Kanto Rookie Tournament, the number 6, but in this tournament, Alex knew that he could not get a single-digit number. There were too many strong trainers in this tournament to get such a low number. In the last Kanto Champion Tournament, Alex and his Pokemon team would only get number 18. Alex woke up all of his Pokemon and started preparing their food when he turned on the TV. Poke News pre-program was already live and a host and 2 experts started talking about the tournament. Alex recognized all 3 people in this program. Professor Walter and gym leader Erica as the 2 Pokemon experts and Freya as the host. Alex had to admit that this program really doesn't invite no-names and only the real famous individuals. Although Professor Walter is not an extraordinarily famous professor like Samuel Oak, he often appeared on TV and was one of the most famous professors in Kanto. The show first made a little small talk and only after a few minutes started talking about the things that awakened Alex's interest. Freya suddenly showed serious expression as she quickly changed the subject. I just got the info from the studio that we now have the whole list of all 64 participants. As most spectators already know, the participant numbers are distributed to the trainers according to their Pokemon's average level, so that the strongest participants will not meet prematurely at the beginning of the tournament. And because the tournament is a 64 tournament with 4 separate brackets, only 1 participant from each bracket will make it to the semifinals. When Freya talked, the program started to show the list with all 64 participants on a side screen. Alex immediately looked at the list and he noticed that only the first 8 are visible in the entire list and the rest of the participants are greatly reduced in size so that Alex could not read the names. Participant 1, Koga. Pokemon, Weezing LV56, Ariados LV57, Fortress LV57, Mook LV59, Venomoth LV60, Crobat LV60. Participant 2, Lieutenant Surge. Pokemon, Lantern LV57, Electrode LV57, Jolteon LV58, Electivire LV58, Magnezone LV58, Raichu 59. Participant 3, Sabrina. Pokemon, Venomoth LV54, Jinx LV55, Alakazam LV55, Espeon LV56, Mr. Mime LV57, Alakazam LV60. Participant 4, Senta. Pokemon, Tyrantrum LV52, Flygon LV53, Haxorus LV53, Kingdra LV55, Dragonite LV59, Dragonite LV60. Participant 5, Christina. Pokemon, Snorlax LV54, Jengar LV54, Steelix LV55, Slowbro LV55, Ninetales LV55, Venusaur LV55. Participant 6, Zach. Pokemon, Glisker LV53, Donphan LV53, Ursaring LV53, Arbok LV54, Machamp LV55, Tyranitar LV58. Participant 7, Gary, Oak. Pokemon, Alakazam LV51, Rhydon LV52, Arcanine LV52, Pidgeot LV52, Exeggutor LV54, Blastoise LV55. Participant 8, Gideon. Pokemon, Electrode LV50, Electrode LV51, Raichu LV53, Magnezone LV53, Porygon LV54, Electrode LV54. Alex saw how many strong trainers participated this year and he was a bit shocked. The champion from the last Kanto Champion Tournament would only get number 5 this year and not number 1, like last year. The fact that the top 3 are all strong gym leaders had greatly increased the grade of this contest. Alex remembers hearing more than half a year ago that it didn't take Koga and Sabrine long before they each had a Pokemon on the champion level. Especially Koga's team surprised Alex a lot. He had not only 2 champion-level Pokemon but almost 3 champion-level Pokemon. If a trainer has 3 Pokemon at the champion level, this trainer is considered a champion trainer and fulfills the minimum level required to become an Elite Four member in a region. Alex could see that Koga is now almost on a similar level as an Elite Four member and will probably have a similar strength after a year or two. But what really surprised Alex was that Gary Oak was in this tournament and how powerful he was. Above all, Alex remembers that Gary's team was one-on-one like the team he had in the game, which supported his suspicion that this world had more to do with the games and manga than with the anime. Although Alex hadn't heard from Red in this world, which discredited that theory a bit. After Alex saw Gary, he also wonders a bit whether Ash or Red exist in this world and whether they behave one-to-one as they do in the games and anime. Chapter 318, the program slowly began to talk about the participants, and Alex started again to listen carefully to the program as he prepared the food for him and his Pokemon. Freya smiled and started asking questions. Gym leader Erica, can you tell us why so many gym leaders are taking part this year? As a gym leader, you must surely have a guess. Erica gave a slightly thoughtful expression. Oh, that's a very difficult question to answer. I can't read anyone else's thoughts, you know. But if I had to guess, I would guess that achieving the champion level, one reason for 2 of 3 gym leaders a role in it played. Freya asked, Professor Walder, what do you think? Professor Walder thought for a few seconds before he said with an uncertain expression, I have no idea. It would be better if you asked the top 3 participants yourself. Freya smiled when she replied, Professor Walder, we tried to get an interview with these 3, but none of the 3 were interested in talking to us for more than a minute. After she had said that, the program showed 3 separate chips from the top 3 participants that, each answering one question. All 3 were asked the same question, whether they think they can win this tournament. Koga just gave a cold expression when he said, yes, and said nothing more. The chip was extremely short. Lieutenant Surge answers the question with the words, maybe. I don't have the feeling that I'm not the most powerful trainer in the entire tournament. HEY, what are you looking surprised at? Tell me who is better than me? The reporter showed a look of fear when he saw Lieutenant Surge's eyes. He only replied with the words, I also believe that you are the strongest, and finished the interview. Sabrina was the only person of the 3 who showed a smile. She said, hee, what a predictable question. But to answer this question. She paused for a moment before saying, with a self-conscious expression, it is of course me. Although Alex saw that Sabrina made the nicest impression of the 3, he knew that Sabrina is not such a gentle person. Alex heard the rumors about her and he did not believe that all the rumors are completely untrue. Freya showed a charming smile as she said, as we can all see, each of the 3 participants is very confident. Professor Walder said, I think this is justifiably confident. Although Sabrina and Lieutenant Surge have a level disadvantage, both have amazing advantages that can compensate for that. Freya nodded and explained to the camera, Professor Walder, you are right. Sabrina has extremely strong psychic powers that are so strong that she can even strengthen her psychic-type Pokemon in combat and so can compensate for the level disadvantage when using it on psychic-type Pokemon. And Lieutenant Surge had a lot of experience and his tactics are on a very high level. Tactics, in particular, should not be underestimated if some of our viewers remember the outcome of the last Kanto Rookie Tournament. As always, Erica showed a gentle expression. I think that all 3 participants have a good chance to win it. I'm already looking forward to the tournament. Freya began to change the subject again. Although the top 3 have the most chance of winning the tournament, we have other interesting participants that we don't want to leave out. Alex watched for a few minutes but saw neither himself nor the individuals that he recognized. When Alex already thought he wouldn't appear on this show, he suddenly saw his name on the TV. Participant 20, Alex. Pokemon, Bastiodon LV49, Blaziken LV49, Umbreon LV50, Gardevoir LV50, Scizor LV50, Crobat LV50. Freya looked at the camera when she said, "Maybe some viewers recognize this participant. He is the winner of the last Kanto Rookie Tournament and the only person in the history of the tournament who won the Kanto Rookie Tournament with a number higher than 4. Professor Walder smiled softly as he added, "Yes, he's a really remarkably trainer. Especially when I'm thinking about how quickly his Pokemon level up, I can't see Alex as anything other than an anomaly." Erica smiled as she added, "I can only agree with Professor Walder. Alex is a talented trainer with a very sharp mind and a trainer where I can see a very bright future ahead of him." Freya laughed lightly and said to her 2 guests, "Hee hee, it seems that Alex is not unpopular here." After a short pause, she said, "But what is a talented trainer without a rival?" Right after she said that, the show started showing the info of a new participant. Participant 26, Misty. Pokemon, Milotic LV45, Quagsire LV46, Lapras LV47, Dugong LV47, Golduck LV49, Starmie LV50. Alex looked at Misty's data and showed a smile. He thought he was going to have a level advantage over Misty, but he didn't think it would be that big of a level advantage. Although he didn't understand why the program pretended that Misty was his rival. He has never lost to Misty, and the strength gap will only increase in the future, so that he does not believe that Misty will have even one chance in the future to win against him. Her first fight with him was her best chance to defeat him. Alex finished preparing the food and he started to eat with his Pokemon while he was still watching the show. Chapter 319, Alex was watching TV while he was having breakfast and talking to his Pokemon. Although the program was still going on, Alex was only half listening. He had no hope of winning his bracket and getting to the semifinals because he knew he couldn't beat any of the top 4 participants. Even the weakest of the top 4 participants is many times stronger than Alex, and that is not something he can compensate for with his good tactics. Alex just hopes for a top 16 finish so that he can get the valuable prizes from this tournament. Although he has to defeat a participant with a participant number 16 or below to do this. The top 16 participants have all been distributed in such a way that they cannot meet each other before the round of 16. All other participants are randomly distributed so that Alex, with bad luck, can fight a top 16 participant in the first round. But Alex knew that this random distribution that was specified by the tournament is not necessarily random. Of course, the Kanto Champion Tournament wants to show interesting matches at the beginning, so that Alex does not believe that the tournament organizer did not have a hand in this random distribution. Because of Alex's popularity and his rivalry with Misty, he doesn't think he will have much bad luck in this tournament. Alex believes that he will surely not get an impossible opponent to defeat before he has fought Misty. The TRH device vibrated and Alex saw that he had received a new message from Maria. He called Maria and talked to her a bit. He even said with a playful tone that she should watch how he'll win this tournament. When he was talking to Maria, he also got a message from Steven. He wished Alex the best of luck as he made also fun of Alex, at the same time. Although Alex answered differently, he felt that Steven was really a good friend and he was glad that he had such a good friend. Steven and Maria are the only humans in this world where Alex had no cold and calculated thoughts when he talked to them. He treats the two like real people and not tools to achieve his goal. Although Professor Walder is a person he found likable, he wouldn't have any bad feelings about exploiting or manipulating him if it would help him. Alex showed his ID card and he became his new participant number before he went into the waiting room of the participants. When Alex entered the room, he felt a lot of stares at himself. Some of the participants recognized Alex, but they didn't show much interest in talking to him. He recognized many participants, especially the gym leaders, who show that they were not interested in talking to Alex. Except for Misty, who looked the whole time coldly at Alex since he walked into the room. Alex showed an indifferent expression as he sat down on a seat. He didn't feel like talking to Misty. Apart from the fact that he didn't understand why Misty was even looking at him. Alex felt that even the arrogant Misty is not so stupid to understand that she barely had a chance against him with such a big disadvantage in levels. Although in a 3v/S3 fight, the level disadvantage not that big as in a 6v/S6 fight, and Misty's team will only have a total of 3 or 4 level differences against Alex's team in the fight, it is still not enough to have a good chance to win. According to Alex's assessment, Alex didn't think it was a very tough fight unless he underestimated Misty. Misty saw that Alex was ignoring her and she started to look angry at him. She walked towards Alex and sat next to him. At the same time, she gave him a freezing look. Alex's eyes show a slightly ironic expression as he said, "Oh, is that not my powerful rival?" Misty just looked coldly at Alex and said nothing for a few seconds. Alex was a bit surprised that Misty didn't freak out like a kid from his provocation. Although he didn't care where Misty is now a bit more of an adult. Misty said after a few seconds in a low voice, "How?" Alex just looked at Misty with a questioning look. Misty's expression got slightly angry as she said, "How did you manage to level your Pokemon so fast?" "I trained like a lunatic, spent several million, and still." Alex looked at her emotionless. "Do you think that only because you give everything for it, that you deserve to level faster than me?" Misty's expression showed eyes full of anger as she tried to suppress her emotion. "Do you have to provoke me all the time? After our second fight, I used all my time to train my Pokemon to become stronger. I was even in the Firewood Forest for 1 month to get stronger faster. Do you know how dangerous this place is? You can lose your life if you are not careful." Alex showed a sarcastic expression when he heard what Misty said. "Hee hee, you are really spoiled. You even think that it's special when you train in a relatively dangerous place like the Firewood Forest." Alex's expression went cold and he started to look at Misty with his indifferent eyes. Many rookie trainers have to train in the wild to get money or to get stronger. Many of them die every day and don't have the luxury of waiting before they are strong enough to train more safely. Did you know how expensive good Pokemon, TMs, Pokemon food, or even Pokemon items are? Especially good Pokemon items that you can give your Pokemon before its evolution so that they can improve their potential, are impossible for most rookie trainers to buy. Alex's mood got worse than he remembered how he as a rookie trainer didn't even have enough money to buy a good item for Crobat. You have no idea what is really dangerous when you enter the real wilderness for the first time as an elite level trainer. Look at rookie trainer death numbers and shut up. Your foolishness annoys me." Alex didn't have a good opinion of Misty just because she now started training her Pokemon seriously. She got her first Pokemon very young, so it is understandable that she did not train her Pokemon at a young age seriously. But it is no reason for Alex that she now can think that she is special because she trained in a relatively dangerous area. Misty looked shocked and didn't say anything for a few seconds. After a few seconds, she looked at Alex and said, "Do you train a lot in such dangerous areas?" Alex just looked at Misty speechless for a few seconds and then he said, "What's wrong with you?" Chapter 320, Alex couldn't understand what Misty wants from him. As far as he knows, they both have a dislike for each other and not a good relationship. Misty gave Alex an annoyed look and said, "What's wrong with you? I just ask normal questions and you act like an asshole." Alex showed a speechless expression and he wasn't sure if this was all as just a joke. "Normal question? What is normal about your questions?" Misty showed a confused expression as if she doesn't understand what the problem is. Alex just shook his head and said with a smile, "You are really spoiled." Misty got angry. "Why are you insulting me again?" Alex showed a serious expression when he said, "This is not an insult but the truth." He looked at Misty and started to explain. Being spoiled does not mean that you are a good or a bad person, but that you do not understand how normal people feel or what normal people experience. It's like when a rich child doesn't understand why these poor, starving people don't just buy something to eat. For most rich children, food is worthless, so they don't understand it. Alex doesn't think that Misty is a bad person because she doesn't understand what a normal or poor person feels, but he feels that is really a bit silly for her age to be so ignorant. Misty looked confused when she said, "But I didn't say that." Alex looked serious. "Yes, But you said something similar, naive. He started explaining to Misty. You pretend that it is something special that you train in the wild and that you, therefore, deserve to be stronger than me. Just that you think that shows that you do not understand what a normal trainer experiences. I personally have to spend my first 6 months as an adult in a job that exploited me and underpaid me, but I couldn't quit because I needed the money. Alex explained his starting experience but without revealing his experience in Team Rocket. After I had enough money to buy my starter Pokemon, I only had a few weeks before I had to go in the wilderness with a Pokemon below level 20. I didn't have enough money to wait any longer. Believe me when I tell you, I haven't had many near-death experiences, but I've had a few near-death experiences. Once a Pidgeotto suddenly stopped fighting with my Zubat and started attacking me. I was only able to save myself because I have hidden behind a tree. Once I was almost lured into a trap by an elite-level Victreebel. It uses a honey-like smell. Alex started to share his experience as a rookie trainer. Alex didn't have many life-threatening moments. Most of them were from the time he was still a rookie trainer, and that although he was also a very careful trainer as a rookie. And although I have experienced so many dangerous situations as a rookie, I can promise you that I am one of the rookie trainers who have experienced the least life-threatening situation that other poor rookie trainers have. Alex looked at Misty and said with a smile, the death rate for rookie trainers is so ridiculously high, even though there are so rich trainers like you who impact the statistics. Although I don't know the death rate for normal rookie trainers. I'm relatively sure that the death rate for poor trainers or normal trainers must be ridiculously high. Do you understand now why I say that you are spoiled? Misty's face doesn't change, but Alex could see in her eyes how much his words shocked her. Alex didn't have a bad opinion of Misty, but he doesn't really want to talk to such an inexperienced kid. Misty did not say anything for a few moments. She didn't know what to say. After hearing about Alex's experience as a rookie and that he described it as a relatively safe experience, she felt an unpredictable shock. She never understood why the death rate of rookie trainer is so high, and she hadn't thought about it, but now it all adds up. Misty got up from her seat and went somewhere else without exchanging a word with Alex. Alex watched as Misty tried to process this knowledge and showed a slightly surprised expression. He didn't think that Misty would give up her standing so quickly and face the truth. Many prefer to live in a comfortable fantasy than to accept the cold truth. Alex showed an interesting expression, as if he was interested in what Misty turned into after processing it all. A staff member came into the room and said, "The opening ceremony is about to begin. Everyone, please follow me." Alex and the other participants followed the staff member who led them to the arena. When Alex and the other participants entered the arena, they saw spectator seats filled with people. This giant arena was crowded, and no place was left out. Alex, who saw this sea of people, felt excitement and agitation. He had never seen so many people looking at him. It was a lot more intense than the Kanto Rookie Tournament, and Alex started to show a slightly excited expression. Alex saw several elite-level Pokemon flying in the air and saw how these Pokemon use moves that are on Master rank to create an enormous firework. At the same time, music began to play that was familiar to Alex. He only knew that this music sounded completely the same as the games in the first gen. The participants lined up in the middle of the arena at the same time as the fireworks exploded over the arena and the music was playing. Alex was not a person who is easy to influence, but he also felt excited, and Alex's whole body was full of energy. That's the end of this tale for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in part 13. Peace.